bling, 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 bong, 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 bong. Bom, 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 bom. Bum 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 bum. This all organized. A little bit disappointing that none of the airdrops have been available for YouTube shit, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Alrighty. We've got a busy day today, children. I need to figure out what this site is going to be. Really?
Check it out. This feels familiar.
Why is my power grid disconnected?
A blade unsheathed, its light unleashed.
I'm with you. We getting buggers?
Yo ho, blows and we were down. Doom 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 doom. Yo ho, blow this and we're down. We are going to wait until somebody in YouTube comments. That is what we are going to do. For the rest of you, it's not really much of a difference. Or maybe I never connected power in this grid, and that's the problem I'm having here. Entirely likely that's what I did.
Go over the battle plan once more, shall we?
I offer today's dialogue. And with my prayers, I shall also lift up those who have gone astray.
Let's go over the battle plan.
A blade unsheathed, its light unleashed.
I'm with you. Mine, right? Strategy. Good work, everyone.
Leave it to me.
Our battle plan proved its worth.
Nicely done.
What armor did I equip Administrator with again? Oh, yes, that's right. dick, hoppin', hoppin', 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 dick. What weapons are we good for? We are good for Grand Vision, Wedge, White Sword, Dreams, as well as Arts Identifier, also Ties, Lightness, Razor Horn, and Vanishing Call. Agility, Attack, Infliction, Wish. $12. Rewards cost is reduced. So I basically have to roll one or the other. Ain't that about a bitch? So it's either agility or attack. Ain't that some bullshit? Do. Ain't that some bullshit? Do. Let's start with agility and infliction. Maybe attack and infliction. Seems a bit shit. Agility, attack, infliction. Main, critical, infliction. Main, intensity, infliction. Okay, they're all a form of infliction. So, agility boost, intellect boost, main attribute boost. Which should target most of what I need. It's main attribute. Agility, intellect. Yes. Hooey. Hellbuster. Good, actually. And then it was followed up by an appearance on my shit. Did I sleep? Define sleep. In which case the answer is yes. Was it quality sleep? No. But content waits for no man. For we have 4 hours in which to cover all this bullshit we got. Which is to say what was left over from yesterday. Because then after 12, we need to cover what was on the State of Play yesterday. And then after that, I will be instituting the second Discord gaming ad tonight. Yeah, you gotta catch up on VODs, but you're gonna have plenty of content to catch up on, Foster. You're gonna have plenty of shit to catch up on. Don't you worry. I have to pay. Agility HP infliction, agility physical infliction, agility arts intensity infliction, and attribute arts intensity infliction, intellect physical damage reduce infliction, main attribute nature reduce infliction. Not that bad actually. Didn't take that much from me. Still sucks though.
Still waiting for something?
It sucks that it's not right. Alright. Picking back up where we left off yesterday. Girdle your loins. I'm about to expose you to the retarded takes of the Act Man and many grifters like him, even though it will be in controlled bursts from Decembro.
That's so weird to keep like a database of all this. Like, imagine if they did this for racism and sexism. Wouldn't that just be insane to be like, oh, this game is racist, a black guy gets killed in it? I feel like that would be the exact same shit.
Some people are really f***ing stupid.
already opening up the video strong. So, the Ackman makes a video about the Woke Game Detected DEI list. Not the one made by Commercial Rambo, but the one that was made as a targeting list. One that demonstrates the point that there is a difference between political themes, political proselytizing, and constantly making jest of satire by claiming that dressing a man in an orange wig and a horse heart tune and calling him the Drumpfler is biting political satire about contemporary politics. So the difference between Bioshock, Fallout, when written competently, and The Boys. Certainly, it would be a bad thing, Ackman, if there was this giant list called listicles, and people called journalists that specialized in making those listicles about content. It'd be really bad for you. It'd be really bad for you, just like there being people who are familiar with the content of somebody like the Birdman, to demonstrate that the content he used to make before is not the content he makes now. That surely would suck.
What's up, everybody? This is the Daz Bro here, and today, turns out we're gonna have to roast the Actman. There's probably going to be some new people finding this video who don't know what it's about, so I'll take a couple of minutes to quickly lay it out. But there's a timestamp on screen in case you want to skip all that. Further timestamps are on the description and top comment of the video as well. So the contents of today's video were things that I was hoping I would have been able to address directly with the Actman in a live conversation or something like that. I never mentioned it before, but we actually talked about it in the DMs last year, sometime around...
I love when people try to do the talk in the DM shit. You see, the world of the DMs are basically a place where people go to shoot ideas, concepts, or just simply say, you are a insert slur here, you deserve to die in rotten hell. It's so cute. It's so fun. Opinions that don't get revealed publicly get demonized and exposed when they basically hint very heavily at what you must think and what you must say, compared to what people actually put forward in their work. It's adorable for people like myself, because it just feels like it's levels of projection, like you're the other woman in a conversation. It always gives me an ushy-gushy feeling, you know? I hit somebody up with some details and some context. I effectively get given the middle finger, and then the person starts using the talking points and the ideas that were said verbatim. It was very funny in the early days of Twitter, when I would call out games journalists directly to the mouth. Well, don't spoil it. I haven't seen it, so it's new to me. I'll give my nappy seal of approval when we get there. It was really great to watch people that are contemporaries and rivals effectively take direct criticism, attempt to blot out that criticism, and do the shit that the Ackman tried to do to people like Heel versus Babyface. It's very adorable. It's just as adorable when it happened in the debate format. It's even more aggressive when it happens literally live on the timeline.
Summer, and it was chill, mostly. I don't want to share anything like I may be a critic of his and his bullshit, but as we are about to get into in a minute, but there's some lines that not even I will cross. Besides, not much interesting happened anyway. We broke the ice a bit after calling each other retarded, which is pretty much a typical internet greeting these days.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Especially for people who disagree with one another. And then, just when things were about to get a little more interesting, a little bit more friendly, hopefully diving into our ideological differences when it comes to gaming, he stopped replying. And honestly, guys, this isn't even a thing of like, oh, guys, I got him, guys. I epically outmaneuvered the Actman and he had no possible response, guys. Truth is, I don't think he even saw my last message, and I can't even blame him on that because let's face it, right now, at 25,000 subscribers, I'm still a peanut on YouTube. Actually, I can't even say that anymore because a literal peanut is one of the most well-known streamers right now. So I'm basically just a
Well-known versus viral. These are two different things that are always going to be very important to make a distinction between. A well-known streamer is somebody who is a household name. Certainly, you could probably make a fair argument and say that the Burnt Peanut has achieved this, but the way in which he's done it is a part of why that may or may not be active hawk shit. As for everything else to do with it, popularity is a matter of attention span. The Burnt Peanut is doing shit that it basically is literally harassment, if not borderline harassment in video games, to get people to basically tune into the content. Without that, he's not as entertaining. Because, as he's already admitted, it's best to do it by doing things that keep people right on the line. You're constantly pushing, you're constantly antagonizing, you're constantly fishing, and this can have positive and negative consequences. And the unfortunate problem with this is that no matter how you go about this, you're always going to have a consequence. And that consequence is you're putting a lot of effort into basically making bullying into a fun thing to do. What part of that is women and feminism ruining gaming? All of it.
Very observant.
You're going to have to be specific. Which part are you protesting or are you memeing? If you're memeing, I'm not going to take your post seriously. If you actually ask me seriously, I can answer your question.
The slightest sleep of mine.
I pressed the wrong button.
Wait, enemy's coming. Attention!
Quick! Not fast enough, Pip. Moving on.
Shrimp over here. And when we talked, I had even less. Like, I don't know, 17,000 subs maybe? Maybe less? I don't even know. So genuinely, this is...
Size shouldn't matter, but when we're talking about people who are literally well known for being retards, this is something that works against everybody. Works against me, works against you, works against Jay, works against a lot of people. Until you become of such a big size that it is ignoble. You can't pretend you don't know what the fuck people are talking about. And then again, when most people get their attention span from Reddit and or from online content, it's kind of really hard to define where you're missing these definitive points.
What are those two doing?
isn't like a salt-based thing. I do understand not wanting to bother engaging with someone so small. Like, at the end of the day, YouTube is, in a way, a business, and his time is much more well invested scripting.
Hello. Hello, Master Wolf. Why is a person getting yelled at on Kick? That sounds like... I'm going to say... It sounds like a sure break. I need you to dangle keys in front of my face, Carl. I can definitely do that.
And editing his next big video on whatever game or whatever big personality online than on some dude who hasn't even made a name for himself. But anyway, since that dialogue between us didn't come to pass, we're gonna go back in time a little bit here to a very poignant video of the Actman's where he tackles this topic directly and do a concise response. It's this one right here. Every video game is woke, apparently. Which is true. It's actually completely true. Every single one is. Even Stellar Play. Well, what, a woman fighting aliens? What do you think this is?
Get back in the kitchen, women! You can't be on the front line.
Now, if you're new, you should be warned this response is going to be meaty. I like to really dive into the topics that I talk about and be thorough, especially these...
I don't think people deserve to have warnings when it comes to material and content. If you sign up for the material, you know what the fuck you're getting into. You don't get to say, oh man, this video is so way too long. You're gonna watch every single meaty girth of it. You're gonna watch every single meaty girth of it. That's exactly what I said, Pass Carl. You're gonna watch every single bit of meaty girth of a piece of content because you knew what you were signing for. You got into the room. It's like cheating on your husband with your infidelity partner. You knew what the penis was when you walked into the room, so just go ahead and take it.
Complex ones that are often prone to being either misunderstood or misinterpreted. So in the interest of time, and so that this video doesn't turn out ridiculously long with boring stretches featuring weak points or other points that we agree on, some things in his video are going to be skipped as I take the most relevant and compelling clips instead. And alright, that's it. That's enough preamble. Just one last thing. If you guys find yourselves enjoying the video along the way, dropping a like or a comment helps shrimps like myself immensely. Now without further ado, let's jump right in there.
And for anybody who's watching this from the broadcast, feel free to be able to just go there and say that the neighborhood censors the guards.
Turns out there's a lot of games that are woke out there, and you've got to be on the lookout. Thankfully, there is a list just for you, so you can keep track of all of their woke nonsense and all of those political agendas being pushed in your games, and you can avoid it, and I'm going to help you. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, and just so you know, this list is very, very comprehensive. It is very... There's a lot of woke stuff out there, a lot of wokeness. As you can clear, there's fucking 1,400 games on here. Look, okay, it's no secret that companies are sometimes pushing agendas in media, pop culture, video games, and whatnot. Bloons Tower Defense 6 is woke now, fellas. It's been compromised. It contains overtly pro-LGBTQ+ messaging.
So right off the bat, this is like the worst thing to start the video off with because it's the most boring and uninteresting one, but sadly it's important and it's going to set a precedent for the rest of the video. This video of his, and the core of his commentary against quote-unquote the anti-woke side of the argument, is based on this ridiculous list that he found online from a Steam curation group. The group is kind of like the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected group, which is now named DEI Detected, in that what it's supposed to do is find certain elements in games that they deem woke, and then write down what it is that the game has and whether or not they recommend it.
The problem with this is that that was not what the original list... That's not what the original listicle fad was about. Grifters Rambo starts a list that says, here's games that SBI directly worked with and have either lied about, scrubbed from their website, or deliberately being evasive and or untruthful about their level of investment and involvement with the game and its development cycle, up to and including lying about the coverage of what they did in the material versus what they claim on their site. Which now is ever more relevant because they literally deleted everything in sight in the first place. Deceit is as deceit does. The woke game detected list did something entirely different. What that list sought to do was to basically satirize and basically destroy any relative argument a person could have about the list itself in general. So instead of, here's something SBI worked on, here's something Silverstring Media worked on, here's something Dragon Baby, Ghost Baby, Space Baby X worked on, here's something that a media script doctoring company worked on, instead, political themes are now the definition of what is proselytizing. Because the difference between proselytizing and political themes is, can I enjoy this medium even though the content is, quote, soured? If the answer is no, you're being proselytized to. As in being lectured to. As in you're being browbeaten. As in they are attempting to manipulate you into joining a dogma. Without this material being presented in a, quote, cutesy and fun fashion, and instead as the rigorous dogmatic material that it is it any different than the political and the intellectual cathedral from which it is spawned from? They did not do this, either intentionally or willfully, in which to poison the well, so you couldn't tell the difference between these things. My fucking webcam is freezing again. Wonderful. It's gonna keep happening for some fucking reason. I don't know why this keeps happening to my shit, but it does. Don't worry about it. I'll fix it in time. I always glance back at the screen in the first place.
Grifters groups are a little bit different and a little bit better. They usually track down, consultants and etc., but that's neither here or there. The one the Ekman is checking out here is basically that, but on steroids, and it even stretches back through games from years ago where the landscape...
Jingled keys. Nigga, what keys do you want me to jingle? My nuts in the camera? This is the content.
Only by walking upon the land can we truly appreciate every breath and pulse of life. And this is what Enfield is fighting for.
Locating your sword attention span. Do less lame burnt punut that involves no harassment. I mean, realistically, when you're talking about burnt peanut, it's just not funny. Like a guy hiding behind a VTuber avatar that isn't even a VTuber avatar, but is instead an annoying orange-like. It's just not cute. It's just not fun. I'm a grown-ass man with my nuts that hang low. I don't find it entertaining. I don't imagine most people find it entertaining. Because it stops being entertaining around about age 24. At least in my opinion. Banned message, by the way.
landscape of gaming was not what it is today, with actual palpable political activism that we can see clear as day and point to, such as things in the GDC, the Game Developers Conference, where they openly do presentations geared towards teaching developers how to politicize their video games, with attendance and sometimes hosting from major AAA studios and companies like Ubisoft, EA, Sony, Xbox, 2K, etc.
It's worse than just posting. We're talking about political propaganda that is actively organized and then disseminated in a speech, in a PowerPoint, in a presentation, and in a lethargic fucking snore-inducing workshop. It's not just this is something they believe. It's not just this is something they say, but it's not something that's enforced. It is literal practice. It is industry standards. That retards will then come onto a microphone and say, isn't it just possible that it's just money and Jews? Money and Jews? Isn't it possible the deliberate and intentional choices that they fully communicated was their intention to win over a demographic they think they need to connect to in order to win? Just money and Jews?
The wind never stops.
These screenshots going by right now suffice in giving you a taste without getting you intoxicated this early in the video. The X-Man took like 8 seconds in this entire video to actually address the far more realistic aspect of this whole discussion surrounding political agendas and entertainment, and promptly moved on. That was that part right there where he shows some video of the Acolyte saying that this exists, right before darting off to that Bloons game, and then a bunch of other shit on this list, most of which nobody ever even talks about because, again, the list is ridiculous. It even feels like it's AI.
No, the problem with the list is that the list demonstrates the point that I was making before last night in the broadcast and the point that was being made in my debate. Namely, naming 50 games in a fiscal year release of 500 games. Naming 50 games between 5 different years of fiscal releases, meaning that you're talking about at least 5,000 different titles that can be released within any of these fiscal quarters. What's a higher number, 90% or 10%? If you name 10% of the games in an industry and its release cycle, that doesn't mean that the industry isn't cooking, fatigued, rotting, diseased, or suffering. At the same time, not being able to name 90% of the games in that same market field does not mean that everything is completely broken or completely healthy. It's not a 0-1 binary. It is a 100 to 0 spectrum, where the scale is somewhere permanently affixed in 36 to 55% decayed. Bouncing it from there, 10% of the time, you're going to find a hidden gem, or you're going to have a consensus on something that is definitively good. And 90% of the time, ransomware, vaporware, abandonware, rug pulls, abandoned projects that are forgotten about and only picked up when the particular developer decided they wanted to work on it, ran out of money, or some other kind of explanation for what happened to the project. Or, if you want to split it between a 50-50, so 50% of the time, it's what I just named, and the other 50% of the time, it's just a mid-game. It's a game, it exists, people like it, people play it, it might be somebody's forever game, but to you, the average consumer, who knows nothing about the background of everything, it just might be something out there that, hey, it's for anybody, but it's not for everybody. And it's certainly not for me. Which doesn't mean the same thing as, if you've never heard of this game, you've been living under a fucking rock. Or if you argue against this game, not only are you living under a fucking rock, but you clearly haven't played it yourself. So why are you talking about it? The industry moves in spheres and pings and waves. And much like we will probably discuss again when we get to the state of play at noon, should we get there early or late, we'll see. We'll float it. The thumbnail's already done. It's already posted up. I just have to restart the stream when it's time for it. You're going to realize that the number of 90-10 is about right. Because I can promise you, none of you, unless you're me, has more than 8 hours every 3 days to really veg out on video games unless you happen to be working from home. You get in from work, you sit your ass down, you decide what you're going to spend your precious little time on. Should you wish to spend it on me, you have to decide, am I going to do one thing or am I going to do multiple things at once? And I can almost promise you the majority of you that are doing something similar to what I'm doing right now, playing a gacha-like game or something that doesn't require your immediate attention, that you can be able to micromanage at the same time as watching content, you're going to try to insect you're going to try to insect your content. You're going to try to listen to that audiobook while you're trying to insect your nuggies. You're going to try to watch and play that video game while listening to your favorite content creator cover content. It is just how we evolved. It's just how we evolved. Aww. Also, you're correct. It is instrumental to them. It's instrumental to them not just through that, but also through their identity. Quote, it's not just practice, it's fundamental to the identity of the people who push it. It's straight up cult shit, where they try to isolate you from anyone else that isn't also a member of the cult. Getting someone to refuse them, it's being intrinsic to the identity, making all criticism of the beliefs a personal attack against them, as well as a direct incitement on the industry at large. It's like pod people. They want you to join them and effectively become a member of the cult. Should you reject them, they're going to try to make you look like you're a fucking weirdo. Again, example of what happened from my debate. But remember the point that I was making. The games industry is a culture, it is a hobby, it is a business. And technically it's an economy, which is supplanted within an ecosystem that is a part of a food web that exists as a community. Unfortunately, shareholders are not people who fully understand this. The ones that aren't invested in the portfolio. The ones that ask the serious questions, who ask themselves, why should I care what happens at this thing? We're in the business of making money. That is the biggest and deepest concern. For everything else, bean counters and shareholders do not make up the backbone of what is the opinion of that big block that these people belong to. So when the industry tells us, the consumer, with things like High Guard, as we covered last night on Real Negro Hours, you cannot tell me and other people who are functionally not retarded, who have working, functional brains of our own, that we are somehow missing some integral piece of the puzzle. Because there's no world where you're going to convince me that I'm retarded and don't know what I'm talking about if I've spent the time consuming the content, to review the content, to be fair to the content. Because we don't have to give any of these content pieces the time of day. We could just say they're dog shit tripe, and most do, and they forget about them. Which is the reason why things like High Guard happen. It's the reason why things like Dustborn happen. And more than likely Unbreakable if I ever get to finish that game without crashing out about it. And all the other shit that's been brought to me. Sometimes, every now and again, you get a Jaden and Jasmine, and the designer behind it fully knows that what they've made is a type of content that exists inside of a parallax of one part satire, one part in-universe tongue-in-cheek comedy. And then everywhere else, they unironically believe this shit to be true all the time. Itchy, 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 itchy. And when you're talking about the fact that they then invest so much money into this, this is the reason why the industry so desperately wants to truly take Leia Alexander's proposal that gamers truly are dead and that you can just simply create a new demographic out of nothing. But you can't. You can't spin whole cloth shit that has never belonged to people. You just can't do it. You cannot do it. It doesn't work. The soul of gamers will never be contaminated in that way. Not real ones. Carl, what's the definition of a real gamer? One who actually pisses blood, sweat, and tears into shit. Stakes.
I made. You know what I mean? Like, almost like a content ID system like here on YouTube, where if you play 5 seconds of a song in a 2-hour video, it locks in on you and claims the whole thing. Trust me, I had it happen before. For fuck's sake. Like, let me show you some of the ones I just picked up on while I was checking out the origin of the page myself, and that also present things that are going to come up later in the video. So, Watch Dogs. Not recommended as it contains overtly pro-DEI and subtle pro-immigration messaging featuring an artificially diverse cast, with Bad Boy 17 being revealed to be a female Canadian immigrant. Listen man, I got my gripes with Watch Dogs 1, but none of this makes any sense to me. The main cast is composed of Aiden, a white guy, his sister, a white girl, his nephew, a white kid, T-Bone, a white hobo hacker guy, Jordy Chin, an Asian fixer, Lucky Quinn, an old white guy, Clara, the white hacker girl from Canada, and that's about it. Then there's some other side characters, some extra villains, some of them are black from gangs and the projects that you have to break into and beat a boss in. You gotta remember this is Chicago. Then there's like maybe another one who's Hispanic or whatever, but that's it fellas, like this isn't really an issue in the game. And a random French-Canadian girl isn't a goddamn subtle pro-immigration thing. I mean, what the hell are we doing here? They also got Batman Arkham Arkham Knight here in the yellow zone. The yellow zone here is where they have like an informational thing, basically. They can't recommend it nor...
They claim that you can't recommend it or that it can't be spoken about, but the fact of the matter is that this is where the list itself breaks apart, where it makes it very clear this is somebody playing with people's attention and ideas.
Not recommended. It just serves as a warning, and that's because it has subtle pro-LGBTQ plus messaging in the form of a voicemail from Kate Kane revealing she's getting married to her female fiancé, and also a member of the militia mentions that his other half is a male civil rights lawyer. So basically, two gay non-characters mentioning shit in passing. One of them is tucked away in a voicemail message. I didn't even register this, like it's the first time that I'm realizing that the fiancé is gay. I didn't even notice it myself. It's basically just a wedding invitation. And the other one I never even heard either. It sounds like one of those dumb things that come in through the radio, like when you're listening in on the little goons on the floor. So maybe a militia member says some dumb shit like, hey, you know, my other half is a civil rights lawyer, you know, some bullshit like that. And there you go. An otherwise totally based game that never drops the power fantasy of beating the shit out of criminals as Batman and locking them up while soaring through the skies of Gotham, helping the police reinstate order, is now known as a caution yellow zone type of game in this list. Or, sorry, rather, oh, you know, my husband is a civil rights lawyer, you know, some shit like that. Does this sound off? Is this a little too New York Jewish of an accent over here? Like, I don't, I'm not one of them guys, I swear. We gotta move on, bro. We gotta move on. Every goddamn Assassin's Creed game is on this list too, including the good first ones too, and it's all because of some weird shit.
It's not weird shit, it's just the historical stuff. Back when Ubisoft was not Ubislop, and they were able to understand that there is consequences to things that you write in your story with ontological inertia. Basic stuff that was a part of the political themes of what the book and what the story and what the content is offering you. In the eyes of people who see everything as a hammer and a nail, basic political themes and consequences to your character's actions over a long-form series, lest we forget that the Assassin's Creed 2 era was literally 3 games long, is definitively the case example of missing the forest for the trees.
Contains overtly pro-DI messaging. Like slapping that on Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, and Brotherhood immediately makes me suspicious of what this specific label even means, because I can go back right now and play these 3 games in a row, and there won't be a single goddamn instance where this game is going to be preaching things to me. Like,
Well, see, the difference there is that, well, we live in a time period where we have access to the knowledge that comes with what we now know is social impact messaging. Even back in the original content, the social impact messaging was there. In fact, that social impact messaging is the entire reason why Watch Dogs exists. It is a modern-day variation of the same content inside the world that contains Abstergo and all of the content around Assassin's Creed as a franchise. It's just that the mature idea is not able to separate things from history from things from current year. So Bridge, DEI, pro-diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, social impact scoring, social impact messaging, and the political pandering around a game being made. Therefore, it deserves to be accredited as art that escalates and elevates the field. We see these as the same thing. A smart reviewer would know the difference between the two, but if you were a shit poster trying to see if you can be able to piss people off and also get a yucca fuck at the same time, guess what? You end up giving your enemy a lot more ammunition than you think that you were just shitposting about.
Let's be clear here, DEI means a very specific contemporary thing. When you tell me that there's messaging of this nature in a game, I'm gonna assume something that is clearly shoehorned in and doesn't belong. Something that refers to contemporary politics. And this simply isn't the case in these older Assassin's Creed games. Then they also have beef with Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, noting that there are female assassins. And what do I even do with this? It's a clown show is what it is. And the funniest thing is that it's reversible. If all assassins in the game were male, then they could just be like, well, it's woke because it only presents men as capable of violence. And if there are female assassins, then it's like, there we go, it's woke because it's allowing a female character to also be an assassin. Something super simple. I mean, shit, go watch the news. There's female...
I mean, this right here is a key example of the reason why people like myself do not use the word woke to describe something. Number one, it gives you an easy Mott and Bailey that you can just simply be a progenitive dumbass and retard about. But more importantly, you end up putting a lot of stress and a lot of focus on something that effectively cannot be properly described. You make it impossible to have a conversation. Because what is woke? Woke is self-descriptive, therefore it's incapable of defining itself. Therefore it's incapable of being defended against. Meanwhile, somebody comes up to you and asks you a basic pointed question about what is something that is political proselytizing, something that is lecturing me, that has a ideological worldview, and inherently is stemmed off of that view, directly from the hands of the author, from my ears, from their mouth, to me retelling it to someone else. Boom, done. Argumentative things that are working in the realm of the physical about the social for the intention of informing the uninformed.
Male killers out there, it really doesn't take much. And as assassins of the Brotherhood, before the goddamn RPG games happened, you weren't wrestling Andre the Giant.
Hi, Nick.
You were just finding your moments to strike your target once with a hidden blade. So anyway, I hope this little detour serves to show you guys a couple of things. This list is extremely sensitive. Really, I mean it when I say it reminds me of the YouTube Content ID system. It picks up on anything that can be interpreted as woke and flags it. Look, another one for the road. Homefront. Portrays the US and its allies as weaker than Korea and features female frontline combatants. Again, the reversible theory hits. You want a villain. You need to make it powerful. Make the US the enemy faction and it's woke because it's anti-America. Make some other country the enemy faction and it's woke because it's portraying America as weak, which is a goddamn necessity in a video game where you have a big enemy that you're supposed to fight. And
realistically, this is what I like to call the Spec Ops The Line and the 6 Days in Fallujah connection. On one hand, we remember the time period, and we still even probably still exist in the time period, where a film is not going to get made in Hollywood should they wish to use military hardware without them having to accept that part of the deal that they're going to have to make with the military, no matter what branch of the armed forces it is that they're working with, is going to have to basically make a propaganda film with the intention of making the people who are a part of the armed forces look cool. Michael Bay Transformerverse, anyone? And in many ways, you can do this, and you can make it right, and you can make it good, and it can be enjoyable, and it can be satisfying. But 9 times out of 10, what you're instead going to get is Battlefield. What's that? The American Armed Forces and Navy with the combined efforts and beauty of Rihanna Robin are gonna come together and stop aliens with archaic fucking foreigner naval museum pieces of war machine tech? Nah, you're bullshitting me, bro. Oh my god, they did it! They did it, and they did it with one-liners. Although honestly, to be honest, the idea that you turn a board game into a movie by actually logistically recreating what is basically the longest and most LP boosted match of World of Warship, World of Tanks is hilarious in hindsight. Please, do something else with Scrabble. Quick, make a game up with Pictorio. It'll be satisfying. If you put in half the effort that the guy that did the NES port of Pictocross did when he was trying to make Pictionary for the coverage, it'll be the greatest shit in amusement. I promise. I promise.
And the thing about female fighters in the frontline kinda hits the same way as it does in Far Cry 4, which is also on this list for the same reason. But like, if you play these games, you'll realize their settings are very oppressive. In Far Cry 4 specifically, you're in a shithole country fighting in a revolution against a madman. Of course women are going to be fighting too. It's one of those things where people must unite as one. There's no army, it's a rebellion. And specifically in Far Cry 4, it says it features female leaders. And I know precisely the leader that this list is likely referring to, which is one of your 2 ally options. One of them is a woman, the other is a man. And the woman is the bad choice because she just wants to lead Kirat into continuing being a shithole by running drugs with children and shit like that, while the ally dude wants to rid the country of all that filth and usher in a new age for their people. Doesn't sound so woke anymore now, does it? Some stories are just going to have men and women in various roles. Simple as that. Overcomplicating this does nothing. Context and intention matter greatly, and this is a list that doesn't take that into account.
Unfortunately, we live in a postmodern, post-truth world. Memes have nothing to do with the reality of having funny comment that gets in the way of being able to shitpost on people that you don't like. It will always be a problem. It will always be a problem. And unfortunately for those people, they're not gonna really, tune the fuck in when it really comes down to brass tacks. That would require them to be honest. The people that we're dealing with are not honest people. If it was honest, we wouldn't have the debates we do about content. Hell, even when it comes to supporting a content pack, pull out the supporter pack of something like Path of Exile 1 and 2 and compare it to any other system in a free-to-play or freemium video game, and you can clearly see where the money and the mouth is. People like myself, we spend thousands of dollars of our money per capita when it comes to enjoyment. And we can tell the difference between what is political proselytizing, what is just good storytelling and writing, and what is somebody clearly spurring about something that's not a problem. Meanwhile, on Twitter, it is literally by design that you must be fallacious about something so that it can go viral, so that you can get your updates and become one of the social elite. But, you know, in a time period where Mr. Nbent has decided he's going to get off social media because he realizes he's not safe out here, I think we're going to take the other clause, because it's just better. It's just better.
Feels like it's just automated. Feels like a bunch of people playing random games looking for one thing to call suspicious and then give the game a red score. That's why there's so many of them and why so many of them sound stupid. People like myself and many others in this space, we'll get there in a second, do not care about this list and have never complained about any of this nonsense. And yet the Act-Man does not differentiate between this at all. And that's the big problem here with him using this list to support his claims.
You see, that's a good point that you just brought up. That's a good point that you just brought up right now. That's a great point, Pip. I usually don't expect that out of you, but that's a great point. People like to do that with both. But guess what? They, the industry, decided that both games should be delisted. And now, unless you happen to have a way to access it without going through the usual sources, both of them are unplayable. One side says one is good and is the correct way to make media. The other side says one is just clearly propaganda for the military and or a means of trying to kick the dog in your face. But both are unplayable on major platforms. Certainly, there are things that GOG do that Steam cannot. And that's one of them, probably. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Invented indeed did run away, and Will Stancil is still out there fighting Antifa right now. We'll see what happens in a week.
And to an extent, like, I get it. I understand why he does it. Like, it's an easy target. It makes for great content, but without the nuance to call out...
I disagree. It makes for shit content. Preaching to the choir is not good content. It is just padding your bases. Certainly, proselytizing and preaching to the choir can be good when your job is to preach to the choir. But sometimes you need to go out and do actual physical labor and acts. And these motherfuckers do not know how to do that.
I brought you something. A gift.
They are bad at their jobs in the simplest format. Just simply bad at their jobs.
I
Burp.
brought you something. A gift of the wilds.
Instances where it's valid and we have actual issues related to political activism in gaming, it's just a disservice, especially with the way that the X-Man does it, with how he keeps referring to this obscure they throughout the video, referring to people who criticize these ideological issues in games.
You're probably thinking this is like a pride flag too, but unfortunately it is merely a t-shirt of a T-Rex riding a skateboard in a reference to Pink Floyd's famous album, The Dark Side of the Moon. It was the wokest thing I could find in my house. It's crazy that, like, that's all they need, like, just this, like a pride flag in a game.
Well, you see here, Act-Man in the past man. The Pact Man. You see here, the Pact Man. There's this thing called diversity and equity lobbyists, like GLAAD. When it's literally the job of an activist and a lobbyist to constantly desire for representation, to literally become a brand, the sloganeering brand of the pride flag and its many various cut variations becomes something that causes this thing called pattern recognition. Certainly, a person should not spurg at the color of the rainbow. But when people that believe they're on the right side of history believe that they have a fucking bandwagon approach and a license, if not an outright hegemony, on the idea of pride equaling woke, equaling the good guys, it's kind of an issue of various things left to the middle. Certainly, social impact relates to social justice, which relates to politics, which relates to political aggressive information and politically aggressive propaganda, if not outright sloganeering in general. If you demand someone say X says trans rights, it is the same thing as slapping a gay logo during Gay Pride Month. If you're not willing to do it at all times of day, and you own an account that operates in the Middle Eastern United Emiratis, United Arab Emirates, suck my cock, I am not a grammar Nazi, but I do belong to the SAF's Negro Wolf, then we understand exactly why people would be concerned about pride flags. Example, when you decide to call your pride flag a parade of colors, and you host content and tournaments in Riyadh, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, countries where homosexuality is banned by the moral police, and you can get thrown off a building to your death as a free lesson in gravity given to you very graciously by the imams and the caliphate, you are risking the lives of people that live in a country that will never truly suffer the consequences of their politics on people who then go to said country where they will be persecuted because it made you feel good to wave a flag around and say, listen, who am I hurting by doing this? First order bias. Second, third, fourth, and fifth order magnitude consequences. More than surface deep. Knowing the difference on this, it is a concern why there would be people who say, all you niggas do is just talk, but you never show up and put your money where your mouth is. Because unfortunately, Riot Games, you continue to be the biggest danger to everybody around you. And unfortunately, Hunter Levesque of the WWE, you are a danger to everybody around you, including your wrestlers. Now, certainly, you can put them in hot pieces of outfit where people just slather on the black leather when it comes to the girls, and the guys can wrestle in whatever kind of paraphernalia they have to cover up whatever skin they have to, even though the imams and the Saudi princes love Western content, which is half the reason we're able to preserve things like we do on Steam. Shoutouts to that one nigga in the palace that continues to play on his Steam account with a Steam level of over 1,000 or over 150 or something. But you guys are the biggest danger to those people. At the same time, while you then say, well, actually, you guys just hate Insomniac Spider-Man 2 because we gave attention to the black guy. And the worst thing about that game is that you can't even match the fucking flag of his origin to the place where he belongs. As well as the fact that the mode that is supposedly a disrespectful, anti-queer hack mod is just the developer kit turned on. So you know. That content doesn't show up in those regions when they're playing the game across the region lock.
You can't even have that, like they don't even want that.
Indirectly, people like myself, same thing that Tony did in his video a couple of months ago, calling out these supposed grifters of gaming, and then equating someone like Andy Pants to Vara Dark when their content and their views couldn't be any more different. It's just utter bullshit.
And we'll get to that video in time, because that's the second one that's on the list. However, when we talk about the problems that come along with the lolcoutum of most coverage, someone coming to someone like me and calling me a woke grifter is hilarious. Because I don't have to grift shit. My opinions and my views are my own. And if they were attempting to claim that I must think a certain thing, they must be able to find it in my content somewhere. But no, unfortunately, people like Andy Pants and Tactical Exemplar are not equivocated to people like Eric July or to Vara Dark. Because, at the very least, her, me, Nuru, Savvy, and the others, we have to play the game in order to talk about the game. Meanwhile, Mighty Keith can't even bother to do that half the goddamn time. Not unless he's being ad-sponsored.
But now let's refocus on some specific points that the X-Man brings up.
Hogwarts Legacy, well, we all knew that. Contains overtly pro-DEI messaging. 1800 Scotland somehow has diverse LGBTQ plus characters. There's fucking wizards in the game, bro. Just get over it. Why do we...
You can suspend your disbelief in reality when it comes to magic and unicorns and horses and curses, but you can't suspend your belief for the all 800 Ford F-150. Yes. Thought-terminating cliches are very often used in replacement of actual arguments. It doesn't fucking matter, actually. It doesn't fucking matter, therefore you shouldn't care. But it matters so much that you can make content saying, oh my god, look at how pathetic they are. Pick one side. One. Only one. Either it's retarded and it doesn't matter, or it is important and it does matter. You don't get to do both at the same time.
Cherry pick historical settings like this when it's clearly not a non-fictional.
It's not a historical setting. It's a fictional setting. It's a fictional setting. Hogwarts is fictional. There's nothing historic about it, unless we're talking about the demographics that are being used to paint the area. And in that case, you'd have to go by the fictional history of the world. Here's a question. How much of a generalized world-building racist is J.K. Rowling to decide how many gay people actually exist inside of Hogwarts? Exist inside the Wizarding world as a whole. Not just the European schools, but also the American schools or the African schools. There's a question for the ages. Give me that alongside the descendants of Kingston Shacklebolt, and we've got ourselves a mystery afoot, gang.
Story. That's crazy. That's crazy. But Hogwarts Legacy is woke. J.K. Rowling is... I'm a little confused now. I'm a little confused on that one.
In this section, the X-Men blazes past a few games and once again points out some stupid examples and others less stupid and others that are stuck somewhere in the middle. For example, he checks out Hades 2 for a moment, makes fun of how it points out optional gay romances.
Hades fans, oof. Homosexual relationship between minor characters. Optional homosexual romance.
Damn.
Didn't that...
The Hades and Hades 2 is actually a perfect case example of exactly what we like to call the failures of the visual romance novel. On one part, Hades is what set the standard when it was the brother character. Megara and Thanatos potentially having themselves a non-binary freak-off in his bedroom with some ditty-ass lotion and ointments and oils and shit. But the part that people actually care about is, bro, the gameplay, the gameplay, the gameplay. When you go to the final boss, Thanatos, that nigga takes away your ability to have a pause menu. You gotta earn it back as an augment, bro. The kind of thing that already exists inside of Exile 2 as a literal game mechanic. Just like it existed inside of Elden Ring as a literal game mechanic. You know, until people hacked in the ability to pause again. Something, situational disability. Alana Pierce telling me that a parent is the same thing as a person who's a quadriplegic who literally can't scratch their own fucking ass because they have to breathe through a breathalyzer to move the controller input. When you decide to confuse the forest for the hills, the part that people care about versus the actual material. A hentai game. You come for the titties, you stay for the game mechanics. Bejeweled with tits. But you really like the bejeweled part. The porn doesn't matter. You could speedrun that shit. It's always going to be a Mott and Bailey, no matter what we do. Accept this, and know that they are going to always bullshit themselves. You can make the same argument with another Hades-like clone that I have called Siegebreaker. It's got all the makings and markers of a queer piece of propaganda work. I will show you. Here is a physical screen of the art, of the key art of the game. Here, from the search, is some of the screens that you can expect from the game made by Thunderful Games. It reeks of the kind of thing you'd expect of Hades and Hades 2. By design. As it is quoted as a cyberpunk medieval Hades. And then, with things from Gamatsu, from the development and art productions, breaking down the things in the game that could be expected as a part of its content, as well as news and trailers, and content design. It has all the makings and marks that come along with the things that we expect. Certainly, interesting for the punk lovers in you, but it's nothing special. It's just a clone. As close as a clone can be a clone. And then in terms of a developer, well, look and see with your own eyes. Before you've even learned anything about the company, you know everything you need to know about the company. If I'm lying, I'm crying. 1's in the chat, 2's in the chat. We don't even need to talk about what the fuck is inside this presentation of the dev stream. You already know what the company's politics are. And if you don't know what their personal politics are, you know what their company's political stance on the idea of being open is. Should that be reflective of whether or not the game is bad? No. But it tells you a lot about the corporate culture. But if you listen further, and you don't just stop at the surface, because this is directly from their own accounts, you actually watch the content. You see what they have to say. You look at the announcement. You look at the dev streams.
Hello, what's up, everyone?
You look at the content, you look at the material, you see them break the game down. You'll start to learn things that then enable you to be able to argue about what's happening here. Again, if I'm lying, I'm crying. I am never going to accept and take serious people who make this argument because it's not serious. It's never been a serious argument. It never will be a serious argument. This is what happens when a person wants to be a child and doesn't want to accept that there's a reality to how their content works. Now, if they end up still making a good game despite their politics, it means that they actually have the ability to cook in the kitchen. Well, when you have people making a game by committee with too many cooks in the kitchen spoiling the broth, so you need a nigga to stop what they're doing and fucking do the dishes, well, this is how you get Highguard. This is how you get Relooted. This is how you get Dustborn. This is how you get South of Midnight. And if all you care about is, did they make a good game? You don't have the ability to answer whether or not it is or is not. Because certainly, Hades 2 is a good game. But the reason why it's good is because they already made a formula. All they did was literally put a chick in it and make her queer.
Also get some awards. Look at how many games we're exposing. All of these games have been compromised.
But completely ignores how it notes that Chaos is non-binary and Dusa says that she's asexual. As if that shit was perfectly normal to be present in a Hades video game. As if it makes perfect sense that in a video game like that, in that kind of setting, someone just turns to you and says, hello player, I'm non-binary. I mean shit, we're just walking into Veilguard territory again. But anyway, I actually want to focus on something else for this section of the video, which is the part about this concept of improbable diversity. We went over how it made no sense in Watch Dogs, now we're going to go over how it absolutely hits the nail right in the head when it comes to Hogwarts Legacy and many other such cases. Hogwarts Legacy in general is a very funny case and a prime example of why this list is a complete joke, and so trying to use it as a generalization to attack, delegitimize, or dismiss arguments, points, or whatever else made by people trying to fight political activism in video games just doesn't work. I've been at this for a little over a year now, roughly a year and 4 months. I'm not exactly in any circles, like there's a couple of small content creators that I tend to hang out with sometimes in their live streams. Shout out to Discuss Thing, G-Hammer Empress, and Mr. Hardcore.
Des, you tell us what you want. Tell us what you think. All right, you're done. Who's next? Steve, you're next.
But I do obviously follow and generally have an idea of what other content creators in this space talk about and say. At least generally. People like Indignon, Varadark, Dr. Disaster, some of the Geeks and Gamers crew, Smash JT, Hypnotic, so on and so forth. And I may not know everything about, of course, nobody knows everything, okay? But one thing that I do know is that I've never seen them talk shit about Hogwarts Legacy. In fact, I've seen the opposite. I've seen them celebrate its massive success. Now, of course, most of the time that they do so, it's while at the same time mocking the boycott against it by the woke mob, who actually hates this game far, far more than whoever wrote this dumb list. Because at the end of the day, it exists as a symbol that nobody cares about what these mobs virtue signal about online, and the game would have been far better without the immersion-breaking woke shit that they crammed into it to try and appease that deranged mob to no avail. And this also serves as a perfect contrast and why I don't bother with little lists like this. Like, yeah, sure, you can mock some of the items on this list, but at the end of the day, it's just a Steam curation group. Ignore it if you want to. But these woke fucks? These people went to the point of building a tracker website to organize harassment campaigns against poor random Twitch streamers who made the awful mistake of breaking international law by playing Hogwarts Legacy.
Realistically, this list didn't even function as a proper list. What it did is that it scanned the DSSL and the backside API for whether or not you ever changed your stream title to Hogwarts Legacy. So, even if you didn't own the physical video game, or a copy of it, or have access to it in any particular way, as long as you changed your streaming category from whatever it was before to Hogwarts Legacy and back again, you were on the list. Doesn't track how long you were playing it. Doesn't track whether or not content was on camera. And that's how you get leftists getting bullied for this. Like Girlfriend Reviews, a channel that specializes in the gimmick of a man plays video games and gets his girlfriend to basically narrate the gameplay explanations for them. Cozy content, by any other name. Hilarity ensues. And of course, blase, Dev does something stupid, Silvervale gets attacked, and Expire of Expansion, Fat Man, the bunny sends her regards, blah, 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 blah. I told the nigga that shit was wrong. I told him don't do that. But no one listens to Carl. Nobody listens to Carl.
This extremism is medical insanity, dude, that crosses lines into actual harmful behavior. Now let's get to the specific bit here in regards to Scotland in the 1800s and answer the Act-Man's question. Let's roll the clip again first.
1800 Scotland somehow has diverse LGBTQ plus characters. There's fucking wizards in the game, bro. Just get over it. Why do we cherry pick historical settings like this when it's clearly not a non-fictional story?
The answer to this question is actually pretty goddamn simple. It's the same way we don't add gigantic retards as boss fights in the Call of Duty Black Ops campaign, something the Act-Man rightfully mocked. There's many avenues in which you can corrupt the setting. You can go down the road of thinking that Fortnite is the best thing to ever be shown the light of God, and then take Call of Duty and try to turn it into Fortnite by chasing idiotic trends that don't fit, further diluting the core identity of your franchise year after year after year, until we end up at, well, that. And another one that you can do is you go down the road of being ideologically captured enough to dilute several aspects of your setting or series DNA to the point where shit stops looking right and making
So that's what you look like. I've only heard your voice on Jay Longstrom strings. Hi, Carl. Have a great day. I mean, like, it's not like I've hidden my face or anything. Also, hello. Hi. What a strange way to introduce yourself. I feel like a porn star now.
sense. And that's just stage 1. Get unlucky enough and you might get yourself a stage 3 patient, or higher, like Dragon Age Veilguard, another game that the Act-Man rightfully mocked and criticized. This is why it can be so frustrating when you try to understand what's going on in his head. It's because it feels so inconsistent and forced. Like, I know he's not stupid enough to not understand these concepts.
Are you sure
about that?
And I know he's not a fan of when something's identity gets lost or corrupted along the way, but he's either too stubborn or too stupid to make the goddamn connection to how this...
It's too stubborn. He's too stubborn and he's unwilling to unfuck himself from the upright fucked position. Because that would implore that he is willing and able and capable of understanding where you're coming from. This probably loses. He is incapable of understanding where he's coming from. Because he does not want to actually engage in the argument, he is specifically antagonizing you on behalf of all the people that are standing behind him that he wants to mock you with on the behalf of. Which is annoying as fuck. It's really fucking irritating to deal with a person who's unwilling to just basically be honest to you, with you, in a room with other people, and admit they do not care about content, material, or benefits. It's just, I want to make fun of you because I think you're dumb. Stupidest shit in the universe. But people love to do this. They love to do this. They set their watches to it, bro. Cough. Had a little burp. Ain't not good for my health.
This happens through ideological injections like those as well. Like, as a hypothetical, just imagine Lord of the Rings and how much of a perfect piece of goddamn media it is. Now imagine it get completely fucked by those woke morons who are so brain-rotted by far-left ideology that they view the trilogy and the works of Professor Tolkien himself as racist. This is what we have here in Hogwarts Legacy, but at a smaller scale. The fact is that if you have a setting that is 1800s Scotland, the level of diversity present in the game right now is not genuine. It looks off. At a minimal level, it breaks immersion, but at a much major one, it does something else, which is allow this pervasive ideology to keep thriving in the games industry, looking for more games to go and infect. That's why you should care. Like, I get it. It's just wizards. It ain't even real. And I mean, that's not even an argument. It's completely shattered by what we just talked about with Call of Duty, Dragon Age, and Lord of the Rings. But sure, I get it. In a macro scale, it's just a video game with wizards. So why care that much about seeing a bunch of diverse NPCs? Well, because of the ideology inside. Because that's the only reason why it's in there. All you gotta do is ask yourself and answer honestly. Why would they make these specific changes? What's the point? What's the justification or connection? Does it make sense? Answer all those and the result is no. Of course it doesn't. It's not a random thing. It's a planned thing. It's called a diversity quota. It's very popular in the games industry. Microsoft even has their own for Xbox Game Studios. There it is right there, highlighted in yellow. They were dumb enough to post this themselves, thinking it would be a major hit with gamers. Like, yeah, sure, we're releasing shitty overpriced games, we're making terrible decisions on the business side of Xbox, we've completely fumbled Halo and abandoned other Xbox properties, most of our first-party games are jokes, we're hiking up the Game Pass prices and the game prices, but hey, look, gamers, we are very socially conscious and are making sure your video games get diversity quotas, ugly bland female character designs, and filtered dialogue to make sure that nobody gets offended. Ain't that great? And the reason why this exists in the first place is the political activism in the games industry that actually exists. It's not the diversity of the NPCs itself that is the problem. Switch games to Resident Evil 5 or Assassin's Creed Origins or Mirage or Yakuza or whatever, and the problem isn't there anymore. Or another game that serves as an example where there is diversity but it's well justified with lore is Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. I won't take too much of you guys' time to explain it. It's quick, fast, direct, super smooth. Okay, here we go. So basically the world ended and the Earth was repopulated through sci-fi machine bunkers that held human genetic seeds. Also at the same time from animals and vegetation, etc. All to rebuild Earth one day in the future when, the whole fucking place wasn't on fire. And then they began basically reintroducing this shit to Earth with no discrimination. No thought, no emotion, nor allegiances, or even historical context or information because number one, they're machines, and number two, all of this information was in the Apollo archive which was lost in the extinction event that happens before the current story that would actually make a killer game, by the way, of humanity versus machines on its own. But sadly, I'm not a game director or the head of PS Studios, so it is what it is, guys. You gotta play Concord instead.
Remember Concord? Remember hyenas? Remember insert bad game here?
So anyway, there you go. A game with what is technically a diversity quota. I'm sorry. We got Concord and now we're getting Marathon, man. We're fucking cooked, boys. But anyway, there you go. Like I was saying, a game with what is technically a diversity quota, but one that at least makes sense in the lore so that it doesn't break immersion. But in Hogwarts Legacy, they deliberately do that shit in 1800 Scotland because they are racist activists with a litany of annoying shit that they have to push onto all of entertainment. And that's all of it, man. Like, they can't even see a Harry Potter game or a Lord of the Rings show and sit it out like, okay, our services of diversity, equity, and inclusion do not fit here. Let us move and search for a different project where they may be needed, or perhaps create our own story, our own way. Fuck no, brother. That's not what they do. Shit, it's the opposite. If anything, they purposely target these properties specifically to go fuck with them because, again, they see them as racist or problematic in some other way.
No. That's not necessarily the only reason why. It's a big one, but that's not the reason why. It's political ground. It's territory to conquer. They see this as the place where to go to attack people, so that they may see their will be done. They do it so they can antagonize people. They do it so they can change things. They go to a place where they do not expect people to defend themselves against this change.
So, just get over it? Why? Why do we have to be the ones to get over it? Why isn't it them who have to get over the fact that certain IPs are just a certain way? Why shouldn't they get over the fact that 1800 Scotland doesn't look like that? Or over the fact that Lord of the Rings is the way that it is? I mean, shit, I would love to elaborate here when it comes to Lord of the Rings and give a more specific example, but this would be like a full 1 hour plus topic on its own because their problems with Lord of the Rings are insane, man. I mean, it's to the point where we've got leftist college professors equating orcs to black people. No, guys, not right-wing professors or Republicans or members of the KKK. Far-left college professors. They're the ones doing this. And it's not a niche thing either. Like, it's not some isolated moron. It's perpetuated by access media. It's taken seriously as a thing. And so now, as we saw in Rings of Power, we have to completely shatter the lore, backstory, and concept of the orcs to humanize them. The world's going mad, these people are losing their minds, and we're the ones who have to get over it? Explain why. And, don't mind me, but if you'll allow me to indulge myself a little bit more, why can't they get over the fact that Witcher is set in the same way? And so, if you have a story set in the northern realms of that world, such as Temeria, Redania, Skellige, etc., then you're not going to have much racial diversity. It just is what it is. Why can't they get over the fact that Fringilla Vigo was white, or that Triss Merigold was a pale-skinned girl with ginger hair and some big Like, holy shit, the X-Man is one of the biggest haters of the Halo show. Part of that is because it isn't accurately depicted. The shit don't match. So why is it different in these cases? Why does he understand the importance of accuracy in those situations, but suddenly when we talk about DEI, he turns into a window licker?
Because he's Anita Sarkeesian, but male. Which is to say, he's Jonathan McIntosh, but male and cooler, and having people engage in his content because once upon a time he was a victim of a black man being upset that he had a negative opinion to a review that black man made about Elden Ring. I'm talking about Quantum TV. He doesn't like it when his sacred cow gets fucked with, but he very much loves to protest and project and also to prognosticate. He knows who his audience is. It's Reddit.
And oh my god, let's not even get into the Dragon Age Veilguard, because on that I literally have like 3 nearly and sometimes over 1 hour long videos detailing how much of a shit show the game was, and how much they broke lore when it comes to the factions such as the Grey Wardens, or even something as basic as locations like Tevinter, because they made everything soft and safe, with the identity of Dragon Age, as described by the game director in the dev diary, as being about, quote, a place where LGBTQIA+ folks can see people like themselves represented respectfully. It's inherently very queer, and it's such a rare thing for marginalized communities to have representation where they feel proud and powerful in how we're depicted. It's so deeply meaningful for so many. I often get emotional when I think about what it would have meant for a younger version of myself to see someone like her in a game, and as a hero no less. I hope we can be a safe place for our queer players to know that we are not to know that they are not alone, that they are brilliant and worthy, that they are not only welcome, but celebrated.
Weird.
Is it even any surprise that more attention was given to a stupid-ass character like Tosh than far more important areas of the game? Is it a surprise that the tone is completely screwed, where the thing looks more like a Disney cartoon than the damn dark fantasy franchise that it was supposed to be? Is it any surprise that the entire thing is such a joke when the game was cooked from the beginning with this kind of attitude driving it, instead of the actual meaning and spirit of Dragon Age? This damn video is already going to be way too long without diving further into this mess, so we're gonna move on. But no, you can't tell these people no either. Like, you can't get into a meeting, hear these suggestions, right, and respectfully decline, because they're fucking crazy and they'll use it against you, like Sweet Baby Inc. admitted to doing in multiple interviews already. This is another argument people like to make.
On tape. Admitted to on tape. With witnesses. Thanks, Cameron.
Oh, they just do suggestions and consulting. No, they don't. First of all, they actually work on content. This has also been uncovered officially months ago already, by the way. Inform yourself if you're one of these people. But even still, even...
Oh, look. It's the Inclusion TV interview.
The core identity of your franchise year after year after year, until we end up at, well, that. And another one that you can do is you go down the road of being ideologically captured enough to dilute several aspects of your setting or series DNA to the point where shit stops looking right and making sense. And that's just stage 1. Then unlucky enough and you might get yourself a stage 3 patient or higher, like Dragon Age Veilguard, another game that the X-Men rightfully mocked and criticized. This is why it can be so frustrating when you try to understand what's going on in his head. It's because it feels so inconsistent and forced. Like, I know he's not stupid enough to not understand these concepts.
Also, it reminded a little bit too far back. Unfortunate.
Care. Like, I get it. It's sure. The box catalog is Yakuza forbidden through Cypher, nor elite in the extinction effector, or anyway, that you so that it can shit our own way. Because again, we have to get the way that it is. I mean, shit, I would love to elaborate here when it comes to Lord of the Rings and give a more specific example, but there's stake. The world's going mad, these and so it is. And it's not right-wing professors or some other way person. The shit show LGBTQ representation for young shit. He's surprised more like a thing with this mess. Respectfully, oh, they just if you're one of these people. But even still, no, they don't. First of all, they actually work on content. This has also been uncovered officially months.
This shot right here comes from the thing that I had archived myself before on my content, literally live in my content. Hello, Avalon. That I documented literally live in my content when I did this with my original video from the Niggas Be Yappin' series, which was just a 2-part video of a follow-up and the follow-through. For most reasons why I had to put it as people be yapping. But right here, that content comes from this channel. It comes from the channel Inclusion FX. A 159 at the time when I made this a year ago and like some months back. A 159 subscriber channel that interviewed Kim Belair, that had a massive downvote, that documented things that she admitted on tape was a part of her bullshit. Intentionally. Very few people ever got where this material came from. I covered this back then, and then people like Master of the TDS and his wife, the Writing Raven, documented this as a part of their content on Gothic Therapy. So researchers like myself and them have been basically playing a game of information tag. People get it from me, they steal it from me rather, they don't credit me for my work, and they present it as their own. the consequences of being the smaller streamer. But I was the first. I was the nigga that saw everything.
Ago already, by the way. Inform yourself if you're one of these people. But even still, even if it was just suggestions, what happens when it's seen as a bad thing to decline the suggestions? What happens when you're in a cucked studio pushing for this kind of activism stuff and social impact, and you can't even say no? Especially when activists are literally the loudest voices in the room who use extreme narratives about victimization or marginalization or some other form of retardation to force their way in arguments.
Well, we already know what that looks like. For that, we can cut directly to the content that is in my most recent breakdown that was basically mogging and antagonizing them using the proof from Grifters of Yote. Already be engaging now, right? So, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, other places and spaces where they will explicitly...
Of dialogue that they add to what game.
And what that looks like, with niggas like 8-bit closed fist, is it looks like this.
Even how? Because they don't know. It's not public knowledge. Some of the clowns are even going as far as to say they're the reason for the layoffs, which makes no sense. If you're still confused as to why something like this would exist, let me break it down to you. Let's say I'm a young black gamer who lives in Los Angeles. So I start a service to say, yo, if you come up with a character who's a young black gamer, every character...
I can't begin to imagine how Boyd will respond to this. And here comes Coffee Therapy with a giant steel chair.
Roll the clip. Definitely there have been moments. I can think of one in particular. Don't need to get into the specifics of the game, but it was a situation where the identity of the characters was fairly important that we get it right. And in this situation, we actually had to have a more heart-to-heart, really foundational conversation about these are some of the experiences.
Heart-to-heart foundational conversation means we had to prognosticate, antagonize, and isolate you until you gave in to my demands. And as Cameron, who is the new replaced black male after they fired Chris Kindred by putting the entire bullshit of Cabritas Rambo on his shoulders, despite the fact that new she, a part of the company, Maya Rudolph, formerly Maya Kramer of Silver String Media of Gamergate 1, were responsible for this, goes on to explain how they pressured them. And that the thing that they learned wasn't that they needed to be more capable of leadership, but that they needed to make sure that they were less emotional, not more emotional, so they could be able to get what they wanted out of them faster.
That you are necessarily going to invoke, or some of the messages that you are going to invoke, some of the implications you are going to invoke, regardless of whether you want to or not. It's not a question of like, are you doing it well, or are you doing it badly? It's just, it's there. And so here are the options for how that could go. And this was a pretty, I would say, like unique situation where they were willing to take days of their time to talk with us about it. And I think in that situation, it was, as a marginalized person, I felt making myself very vulnerable, and being brutally honest of just like, hey, I think what you're doing is not cool. And then being met with a less than optimal response to that, and then having to say it again, and then again and again. What I would take out of that, what I have taken out of that in hindsight, is know where your personal and professional limit is, choose your battles, decide as much as you can which hills you're willing to die on, and which, you know, maybe you would rather not. I think that really will serve you well, and get very specific about your priorities. Be willing to let certain things go, maybe, but that comes with experience. It's not something that I knew in the moment. I think in hindsight, I will say I wish I had been a little less vulnerable, and so that is a very valuable piece of information that I now have about myself.
Let's break this down. That wasn't hyperbole. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't taken out of context.
That was Cameron Wild describing how they kept pressing a studio again and again and again until the studio gave up.
They didn't collaborate. They didn't find middle ground. The studio just surrendered.
They even said the first response was less than optimal. So instead of respecting that, they went harder.
And when pushing didn't work fast enough, they got emotional. Not to connect, but to guilt, to manipulate.
Then Cameron said, I wish I had been less vulnerable. Not because they went too far, but because they resent needing to.
They didn't want dialogue, they wanted obedience, and they were pissed it took effort to get it.
And then came the kicker. People need to be willing to let things go. But they weren't talking about themselves, they were talking about the devs.
Are you able to influence how many or what manner of minorities are included at the time?
And then here's another one that came from another channel by the name of the AC Sisterhood, where Karen Belair admitted that when it came to writing on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which you would see nowhere in the original coverage of things that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on, because accredited under the company, it was listed just to Kim Belair's name under an assumed writing credit, or specifically given to her and not the company, you would hear her exact tactic of how they prefer to make content, which is either pre- or post-production. She prefers pre-production because then she gets to get her hands all in the side of progress and the product, and she's able to do what they did with things like Kill the Justice League Suicide Squad. They claim all they work on is the menus and the flavor text and the bios, but each and every single one of them, herself, Amy Bradshaw, Chris Kindred, Grant T. Roberts, which was the one token white guy they had on the staff who was happy to brag about being in the game, are all listed as lead writers and read credits.
stage of the game, or can you only get 55 characters already inserted?
So for me, that's why I tend to focus, my form of sensitivity and what we do on building the narrative. Because there are two kinds of sensitivity work, and one of them is that you are presented with something more or less finished already in there, and kind of your job there is to tell someone, okay, this might be offensive.
Rendered.
They even said the first response had been less vulnerable, not because they went too far, but because they resent needing to.
They didn't want dialogue
Able to influence how many or in what manner women and minorities are included at the planning stage of a game, or can you only give feedback on existing characters already in the script?
So for me, that's why I tend to focus, my form of sensitivity and risk assessment and the work that we do on building the narrative. Because I think there are two kinds for me, kinds of sensitivity work, and one of them is that you are presented with something that's more or less finished, it's already in there, and kind of your job there is to tell someone, okay, this might be offensive, this character feels inauthentic to the identity that it's supposed to convey, or this this plot point is a trope that have negative associations with a given kind of identity. And that's one kind of work that I used to do a lot more, and I try to do less of it now. But when I do that kind of thing now, I prefer to try to spread that work among a team of experts, a team of consultants from different backgrounds who can address my own blind spots and kind of create a panel on that. Because that's an area where there's not a lot of creative input that is necessarily going to allow us to give, because they're so far along. So a lot of the time, that kind of sensitivity work results in cuts of certain things or slight changes.
That's essentially what Sweet Baby Ink does. That is in no way, shape, form, or fashion an issue with gaming.
You see, the perpetual when you are dealing with people in the industry that have a marketed, and I literally mean marketed, intention on lying to your face in interviews, and you have to be so on top of your fucking narrative, so up on top of your goddamn research to catch them in the goddamn edit. Some people are fucking retards that live under a fucking rock. So when you present it to them, and you have to answer the question of, how is this the fault of women, feminism, and gaming? Here's your sign. Alas, some niggas are stupid.
That's right, they become far more than suggestions, don't they? And I suspect that this is even more prevalent than it is known. I usually like to use an example from Ubisoft, where exclamation points have become things that you get summoned to HR for being aggressive. This comes from a Ubisoft insider reporting it to Legendary Drops. BioWare is another example where the recent sale of EA is being scrutinized by Veilguard writers, saying that there's no way that BioWare can continue to exist if games can't be caked with LGBTQIA+ or queer type of content. It's right there on screen right now. So no, I'm tired of the narrative of the get over it. This is just a cuck's answer, it doesn't say anything. They clearly care about this enough to want to corrupt it, and they're the ones who are in the wrong for it. So no, I'm not going to get over it. I'm gonna criticize it, I'm gonna mock it, I'm gonna shit all over it whenever games fail, I'm gonna pop champagne and pump out more videos mocking it. When layoffs are announced, I'm going to laugh again, and I'm going to notice when the most problematic of the employees, the activists themselves, are the ones failing upwards and being picked up by other major companies like Wizards of the Coast, Sony Studios, Xbox Studios, CD Projekt Red, and others, while regular developers who probably aren't even to blame for the activism in their game are the ones struggling to get a job again. I'm gonna notice that shit, and guess what, Act Bro? I'm gonna pump out more videos criticizing it. And anytime any game journalist website or soy boy on YouTube tries to rewrite history around the facts of what really happened, I'm gonna be here calling it out too. And every now and then, I'll take a couple of days out of my schedule to take videos like yours and reach out with a hopefully comprehensive list of why they're full of shit. You're welcome, by the way. Now let's get on to the next point.
Let's see. Other famous Power World is woke because it uses body type in place of biological sex during character creation.
Type 1, Type 2, Type A, Type B type complaints are probably some of the most cut. They're more cantankerous in the Eastern scene, In the Eastern scene when it comes to Japan, Southeast Asia in general. But in America, it doesn't matter that much. Because most of us know that it's just bullshit. But digress.
Who cares? Who cares? You see how easily all of these are just written off as they label that as overtly pro LGBTQ+. That's kind of crazy, dude.
So, onward to the body type stuff. I chose this clip from early on, but there's way more of them throughout Eggman's video as he scrolls along and reads the description pointing to body type AB stuff in several games instead of male and female. Or for example here in this frame, where it's done differently, like in the Battlefront 2 remake, where they change some phrases into gender-neutral language. So here's why it matters and why it's labeled as overtly, even though a lot of things in this list are labeled as overtly without it actually being overt sometimes. So I guess what I should say is, here's why it's overt, regardless of the rest of the dumb stuff on the list. Oh, and also, as to the Actman's own question, who cares? They do. They care enough to change this across thousands of games at this point. This was never just a little thing that some games chose to do. This became the enforced industry standard, including towards old games getting remastered and even games from other countries like Japan that didn't want to do it but were forced to do it by their publishers. For example, the creator of Dragon Quest vented in a video interview type of thing about how he didn't understand why he was being forced to comply with retarded rules from the West. Why?
Yes, exactly. One of the perfect case examples during the Edward Chronicles, where they specifically asked, why are you making me do this when we still have male and female binaries in the game when it comes to weapons and armor? Literally having no effect whatsoever.
couldn't use male and female and had to use body type nonsense instead, as well as a few other things that he called ugly. This type of shit was enforced by Square Enix. It had to be done this way in order for the game to be allowed to sell here in the West. After this came out, Square went ahead and tried to track down and eliminate every copy of that video online. Teams of localizers do that kind of work too, where if a game releases in the East with male and female, that shit, along with many other pieces of dialogue or in-game terms, get changed by localizers who, instead of simply doing their job of translating words and terms into something that we would understand better, go out of their way to push more of this political activism garbage into Japanese games, anime, etc. in order to comply with this ridiculous gender ideology nonsense. So again, who cares? They care. Because the moment you ask to add male and female is the moment they lose their shit. And now, here's another question. Why do this at all? Why is it done this way? And the excuse that I often hear is that it's done for inclusion, but it's actually exclusion. If it was inclusion, it would just be male, female, and then another third option called other. But instead, this, or even non-binary. But instead, this pervasive ass ideology goes out of its way to eliminate the terms male and female from our day-to-day, and even from our language in general, across other things that are not related to games. Like, this is a thing that extends itself far and wide. It goes way beyond gaming. It's an erosion of a basic sense. It's one of those things where some people argue that if you ever get to a point in a society where you can't even lay down a factual distinction between a man and a woman, then anything and everything else can be subverted too. Now, I don't know whether that's the point or not, you know, I don't get that deep usually, but it honestly doesn't even matter. The point is that it exists and it is happening. Like, look at this shit right here. This is literally from just the other day. This came out this week as I was working on this video. I'll roll the clip right now.
Do you think that men can get pregnant?
Dr. Vermin, not going to listen to a word they have to say, frankly, not about anything. I assume that must be referred to Dr. Verma. I wish somebody would make a game mocking woke by making a woke and anti-woke version, where the woke version makes everyone a gray blob, lose all the violence, puts wheelchairs everywhere, and you just hear anti-white slurs every 12 seconds. And the anti-woke version is just an actual video game. Wokemon. Anti-woke and woke editions, featuring all the people that happen to make woke and anti-woke content. And it features the worst of the worst. Funny.
Seriously?
Yeah. That's a doctor that can't fucking answer the most basic, simple question in regards to whether or not a biological male can get pregnant.
It's not that she can't answer. It's that by answering without the leftist meme wall of post text, it destroys the ability to properly address the concern that is a part of the conversation, which is, can men get pregnant? Well, transgender men that were female to male, but they're not biological males. Well, what's biology really? No, they were born male. Well, that's just assigned at birth. No, they are biologically male to their bones. But you can get surgery that gives you feminization surgery that constructs your hips in a way where you now have the structure of a woman. Their DNA is male. If you're not able to answer that question on a yes or no, you're not doing science, you're doing scientism. You're playing a silly, stupid game. A silly, stupid game that inherently forces you to act like you don't understand the problem. The problem being, you can't tell me a definitive answer because if you answer the question without the text, then you are revealing yourself as not an ally. And you will be mobbed by your allies. You'll get stancelled.
Like, bro, do I even need to say anything else here? Like, why are we out here coping about this body type shit as if it doesn't matter? Like, who cares? When we have reached the point in society where doctors practicing medicine are incapable of answering that question.
Hey, I'm just using the terminology they claimed. They tried to say assigned at birth by doctor, and yet somehow the words have changed. I'm a simple man, okay? I play video games, I say nigga, and I like white women. That's all I gotta do. I'm a simple being. I'm a simple being. If they updated the software, that's because I'm out of date, and just like Windows 10, I stole that shit.
But Daz, how is that related to a video game? It's not how it's related to a video game, it's how the video games are related to it. It's a pervasive ideology. It has extended itself into various aspects of our lives and society as a whole. This doesn't exist because...
I think you should really replace the word ideology with dogma, because it's out of the framework of just being ideals. It is the religion. It is the religion that they have made in the place of the God in their life. It is their new God.
Because games like Elden Ring or Palworld or Battlefront 2 or whatever, however many others out there that have this body type thing instead of male and female, it's the other way around. This shit is being pushed onto us as a society, and it is being done through entertainment with gaming and TV shows. The show he pointed to as having agendas earlier in his video, The Acolyte, has a scene that is purpose-made just for that. Cartoons for kids go heavy on this type of shit too. Just have a good browse through Netflix. There's no shortage of parents making lists to keep each other informed on which cartoons have that kind of thing and which don't. It's also present in education. There's teachers out there introducing all manner of ridiculously overcomplicated stuff like this to children. It's present in medicine, as we just saw with, with that doctor who's incapable of distinguishing gender. And my brother, it ain't even going away until people stop being so ridiculous about calling it out. Like, let's face it, they replace male and female with this shit for one reason and one reason only. More political activism in the games industry as an extension of this wider ideology in society. It's not just in America either, it's all the way out here too in Europe. People are getting tired of this shit, man. Like, it's everywhere. I make jokes about this sometimes in other videos. It's like, you're at work, it's at work. You come home, you watch a TV show, it's in a TV show. You talk to your kid, he just came home from school. Your kid tells you whatever the fuck you learned today, it's over there as well. You go, you try to play a video game, it's in the video games. Your kid goes to watch a cartoon or whatever. You're overhearing that shit, it's in the cartoons too. Your wife gets home from work, she says that there's a new fucking, new office rules, and it's in the new office rules as well. Like, is it a bit anecdotal and a bit of a meme when brought up like this? Yes, it is. But it doesn't make it any less true. There's a lot of people...
And the problem realistically here is that memes thus aren't reality and don't shape the world and how we view them through meme magic. Which, bad timing, good situation, right place, right time, wrong place, right time, wrong person, wrong place, right time, etc. Something being viral, something being a joke, something being embarrassing and laughable doesn't undo whether or not it has nuggets, if not an entire kernel of truth. Especially if it's several parts of truth.
People out there pushing this shit into everything that really care about this. So if you want to really ask who cares, they care. Whoever's listening to this video right now, like all the viewers, never let these people use this fucking argument against you. Who cares? They fucking care, man. And whenever they say that, they're just trying to make you look or feel ridiculous for wanting to care. They're trying to downplay it like, you care about this? Oh my god, that's so embarrassing. Meanwhile, internally, they're screaming like... Now, admittedly, I'm not one to just cross out an entire game just because of this one small thing. When people buy these games to play them regardless, like for example with Elden Ring, it's obviously not because of the stupid body type selector. So I don't hardline boycott stuff like that for that reason, nor call out people still playing those kinds of games, but I would urge people to never respond in this cucked out way that the X-Man does. Make it known that you notice that shit and that you don't want it in your games. Laugh at it online, ridicule it, criticize it openly, so that these companies stop carrying on doing the same thing over and over and over, and that hopefully the standard changes back to something that makes sense to everyone, rather than just only representing the 0.1% of the goddamn population. The
unfortunate part about this is that this is unfortunately wishful thinking. The publishing companies are the ones that make these business decisions on behalf of the devs, and the devs get thrown to the wolves because they're seen as the ones that have the ultimate final say when they really don't have that much ulterior control. And if the mechanism is being done by people that are part of the investment side of the company, that come from the shareholders, and the shareholders only care about the fiduciary duty of making buku dollars. This is where the Andariel argument comes in, and can you put a name and a face to the people who are worm-tonguing the industrious people in the business that lead them to do these bad behaviors and bad tactics? If you can't, it doesn't fucking matter. Your company's gonna burn and crash and die, and you won't even have the ability to know who's responsible, because the bean counters can't factor for the social issues, because social issues shouldn't factor in to the monetary weight, unless it is a part of your company's culture to look at the social context. Why do you think I mentioned my game Path of Exile so goddamn much? Grinding Gear Games is fully bought and fully aware of the culture of gamers and its target audience. Between 2 games, no less. They certainly also talk to members of other industries, and they certainly play various different video games of the industry at large, because that's where all the league ideas come from. In their worldview, when they look at the fiduciary duty of the shareholders and the developers and the supporters, they can look at the supporter pack numbers and say, wow, they really stand behind what we're doing here. Do this for Destiny. I bet you can't actually find those numbers. And hell, Destiny and Destiny 2 is directly antagonistic against its players. But the less about that. And yes, that is true. Despite the fact that, as you call them, Woko Haram, are not in the target audience of the game. This is the combination of Kimballaire's celebration, appreciation, and joy and representation, as well as Anita Sarkeesian's everything's political, as well as the personal being political. There is a certain type of shareholder, and it's a shareholder who actually knows ball. If they know ball, you can usually stop this from happening, because they know that this isn't the target audience that's talking. Most of them don't see the purpose on the ROI because they think that if they apologize, they won't be able to make the money back. But this is like the inevitable problem we discussed last night on Real Negro Hours with Bloodia and his partner. They are told that if they turn their back, they're going to potentially lose money. Ergo, continue to make fun of them, continue to antagonize them, continue to critique work, and make them feel that if they don't do this, they're putting money on the table that they can't claim because they're not willing to do the thing for social impact. Most publishers, they have to be capable of recognizing whether or not the culture of people consuming the content actually do care about the thing they're doing in the first place. If it's self-published, they can avoid that problem. Which is why you've been seeing indies eat people's lunches, because they don't have to worry about this problem. Usually because Devolver Digital and companies and investment parts like that, they don't give a fuck. Like, at all. They don't give a fuck. But unfortunately, in most cases, many cases even, those people in those positions are very easily manipulated. Sometimes because they're a woman. And I don't say that as a slur. I say that as an observation. They are easily emotionally compromised because of the fact that they are female. And they're thinking about the social impact and how many more people could be affected and how many more people could be helped, rather than, is it possible that these motherfuckers are manipulating me? It's like a woman revealing to somebody before trying to take them to court for alimony that they intentionally tricked a man for 3 years into paternity fraud. The guy in question basically is left there holding a bill of rights and receipt in exchange at Christmas, where they find out something that they poured their heart, sweat, and tears into isn't actually theirs, and that it is the intention of the mother to effectively take them for everything they own. And they think that because they've done it in this light yogamy Kira fashion, where it's gone all according to plan, then it means that they will be completely innocent of the second order consequences and magnitude problems that will happen as a result of their basic level decision, like the breaking of the family or the destroying of the childhood of the question of the child in general.
It's actually nuts how small it is. Even trans people are more represented by the male and female terms in the video game character selector than this robotic-ass stale term of body type A and body type B. Like, what even is this? Hello, bipedal humanoid sentient creature. Welcome to the California Health Center. May I take note of which is your preferred body type? Okay, thank you. You may take a seat now and wait for your healthcare professional of unspecified fluid gender to call your name. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Come on. Oh, let's get real here. You want to do all this mocking of all these things on the stupid list, and yes, some of them are stupid, but you want to sit there and laugh at the idiot who put the list together while having no stones or basis in reality yourself as you sit there defending the most retarded shit that we've ever heard of in this planet? Like, how's that supposed to work? Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, Overwatch 2 is another one of those games where you could make some kind of argument that, yeah, retroactively changing the sexuality of many characters, maybe there's an issue with that. Maybe these characters evolved over time.
It has nothing to do with the characters evolving over time. It has everything to do with the fact that Blizzard kept changing characters and making them queered, and or outright homosexual, gay, lesbian, sapphic, transgender, or pansexual as a means to distract from corporate espionage and other political setbacks because of their decisions to antagonize customers that would stop playing the retail versions of their games and instead play the private servers, even servers that were not the public progression servers for things like WoW, but instead other classic WoW private servers. Come on now.
Good lord.
Maybe it's really not a big fucking issue, and the issues surrounding Overwatch are way more important and massive and not about character sexuality. Just let the Rule 34 artists be by themselves, okay? Just let them do their thing.
He's right. There are many problems with Overwatch. Same with Starfield, for example, which I didn't show in this video, but he did go over it earlier in his video. There are many woke-ass games out there that have far bigger problems than the ideological little nuggets of activism that exist in them. But the thing is that we have been using this excuse and ignoring it for too long. And when you do that shit, when you sit there and pretend like these things don't really matter in the grand scheme, you just allow the problem to get bigger in the background. And some games do have this specifically to think for. Like, again, Dragon Age Veilguard, where if you let this type of thing just carry on being pushed into games, you're going to create an environment where it becomes the focus. And the thing is, everybody always points to the other things. It's always very, very easy to sit here and criticize other more tangible things, like, for example, gameplay. Oh, the gameplay. Oh, the game is broken, guys. The game is broken. Oh, the monetization, guys. You screwed up the monetization. Oh my god, guys. The progression system is broken. Oh my god, guys. Look at all these bugs. These are all very easy. Everybody does this, but nobody ever touches on the ideological bullshit. There's such a taboo on touching on the ideological stuff that it just allows it to keep happening in the industry. And then you end up with crap like Veilguard, or Dustborn, or Unknown 9 Awakening.
Well, that's what we call a holding pattern, which is by design. Unfortunately, the only thing to do about it is to push through it.
Or Star Wars Outlaws, or Saints Row 2022, or Reloaded, or Forspoken with some of the crappiest dialogue I've ever seen and the most dislikable main character ever, or Fair Games, or that failed project EA Black Panther, or Perfect Dark, where nobody knows what the developers were doing for so many years, or character designs like in Concord, or the shit show that is Avowed, or the story in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, or the entirety of Assassin's Creed Shadows, or the types of mind-boggling decisions where you take an established character like Jin Sakai and you make a sequel where you don't follow his story and you switch to some female character 300 years later that nobody gives a shit about just because you want to offer a job to a fucking activist. And then you gotta hear the retorts like, just because it's a woman, just because it's a woman. My brother, fuck that. It's not about that at all. If I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn and then I'm playing Horizon Forbidden West, I don't want them to suddenly take away Aloy, leave her story unfinished, and give me a new story with, I don't know, Joey Salads. Like 3,000 years after the events of the first and second game. Like, okay, thanks, brother. Thanks a lot for that shit. Thanks, brother. Or the same type of ridiculous decisions where you take a sequel to Spider-Man and you take a dump on the character and you waste everybody's fucking potential so that you can do some more activism nonsense through Sweet Baby Inc. Isn't that just lovely? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking one of my favorite games of the last generation and giving it an underwhelming sequel because, oh, we just had to bring in the activists to work on it too. I mean, Spider-Man has to be sensitive and socially aware. So
Exactly.
Go on, so do I need to go on? I don't think so. This is the type of shit that is pretty much leading to the figurative extinction of certain genres and tones in AAA, which we have definitely seen. Now, the X-Man knows very well that I don't have any love lost for Indie Pants Gaming, and so do my own viewers, because I've made videos calling out some dumb takes of his as well. Now, he may not be the best at wording things and arguing for them, as the debate between him and the X-Man showed when he got fucking bulldozed, basically, but if there's one thing he's absolutely right about, it is in regards to the pussification of gaming, specifically in the AAA space, because when you breed a soft culture that keeps apologizing for itself and worrying more about social issues and social causes, literally social impact, which many of these studios openly dedicate themselves to the point of writing it and announcing it on their websites because it gives them ESG points, then you're drifting away from certain themes, tones, stories, and character archetypes that are now too edgy or too irresponsible for you to go into. Thank God for indies.
Or personality types that start shaping the kind of conversations you can have in the industry. The circles, Mason. The circles of content creation.
Studios and AA studios who haven't cucked themselves to such an extent where they're following down the same road. At least we still have them to give us some real games with some real shit in them, like Hell Is Us, for example. Sorry for spending so much time on this thing. Let's get to the next one.
Have to review these things based on each game individually. You can't just be like, well, that's woke, don't play it. No, you have to actually examine it. Like this could, like the Alex Jones game could be a decent platformer.
That's exactly the correct point. Even though what you clearly know is that it's going to be dog shit slop based on the fact that it's basically a meme game. No, that's exactly my point. You can't just spread these things by a wide margin. Can I be able to deduce that something's going to be probably bad based on whether or not I've heard nothing about it and it came out of the ether? Why, yes, I could. But I can't truly say I know that it's dog shit until I truly get my hands on it. But you know, you can be not impressed. Hence the part of buyer beware that's the most important. But alas, we'll address more as we get there over time. Can't filibuster everything!
Could be. Looks kind of funny, like it's got a funny theme, but a lot of people just write off games because they don't contain the right politics, and I think that's really entitled and stupid.
Just one last thing before the next topic. What people? That's the problem with this video. It takes this massive issue that is very valid and present in the games industry, and it kind of just makes a clown show out of all of it to hundreds of thousands of viewers, actually a full million by now, while misrepresenting the whole thing and not basing it on facts. It finds specific retarded examples in the list, like for instance there's a whole section of X-Man's video here where he goes over Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a game that is present in this list, and most of what he said in his assessment of it is something that I agreed with. Not everything, but for the most part it was fine, and in order to save time I'm not going to put it in because there's a section at a later part of this video where I'm better able to actually show what the problem with his logic is. But then he throws a blanket of dismissal, for lack of a better term, over the whole thing while referring to this mythological day or this mythological these people as if to paint the sentiment and the games in this list as relevant to the wider Gamergate sort of movement that many content creators like myself are often ascribed to as being the same thing. And that's just not realistic at all. It's bullshit.
To simplify, media grifters like the Actman and Smash JT and Tactical Templar and Annie Pants and York Torch and JDA and I think the guy whose name is Trent, who's a part of Fandom Pulse, his website. They are not a one-to-one to people like myself and Nero and Varadark and others, and certainly not comparable to people like Mahler and Fringy and Rags and Jay and the Critical Drinker, or even those that exist on the left-wing paradigm, like the Mighty Keith, who's like the only one I'm going to use in this example.
Also, what kind of fucking games are on here? I Was a Teenage Exocolonist? Contains overtly anti-capitalism messaging? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? So does Bioshock. Criticizing capitalism is woke now. What? Who wrote this list? Well, I know who wrote this list. It was actually one of the founders of Autism.net. Destroy all humans. Contains subtly anti-human and subtly pro-DEI messaging. Are you fucking serious? Anti-human messaging? Boy, I wish this was a wig. I would rip it out. I would rip.
A game that is set in a time period of a remaster that inherently not anti-human, as in the alien setting of Ethereum, but anti-human as in anti-humanist movement, as in humans don't need to exist anymore. But then again, you can't really expect people like this to fully understand that. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. He's a retard. We already knew that.
Rip it out of my skull. Have you played that Destroy All Humans game? Me? No. Contains some anti-human messaging.
I hope no one notices that I have women's panties on.
You know how I like my games. Pro-human. Imagine being the person like writing this list, looking at and playing Destroy All Humans, and you're like, there's just something not quite right about this. There's something not quite right. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like this game is a little anti-human.
Take a moment and drown my sorrows in cheap meaningless sex. Oh god.
And that's woke.
So this part's going to be a bit different. It's not even like a whole thing, it's short. I actually agree with him here too. Like, that stuff does feel ridiculous, and it kind of harkens back to an earlier point that I made about Homefront. This is where there can be overreach from the other side of the issue into causing the exact same problem that the political activists cause, which is creative restrictions. The main reason I'm against that list I showed earlier from Xbox, for example, is because it prevents creativity to flow and be free. It's a bunch of ridiculous rules and guidelines that impact writing, storytelling, lore building, character design, dialogues, etc., all based around this soft political correctness nonsense. And so, of course, if you come out of the gate with the same thing, but from from this other perspective, where you can't have a game like BioShock have themes or be set in a setting that contains anti-capitalist narratives or characters. Another game that does that is Chronos: The New Dawn, or a game like Destroy All Humans that, you know, is about destroying humans, or a game like Fallout, which far-left idiots keep trying to claim as a anti-woke, anti-capitalist game to this day, despite the creators having already said that no, it isn't, etc. Then you're doing the exact same.
Like that matters. They'll claim death to the author till they fucking die, and then the people behind them will claim their work as their own.
Same thing that the wokes are doing.
Everything is inside the political project, nothing outside the political project. Everything within the political project, and everything within my dumbass Redditor meme interpretations.
By restricting people's creativity. I think the reason why that's in the list, though, is because of how much anti-Western sentiment exists these days, where it's like anything at all that is pro-West is a problem from these unhinged woke activists out there. Like, for example, recently, in the world of American politics, which I really don't want to get into, but it is what it is. Just gonna do a couple of mentions here. There were people supporting a dictator after he got snatched, for lack of a better term. Also, with what's currently going on with Iran, we got these same weird types supporting the regime rather than the people themselves. It's sadly a theme that is also prevalent, and that some pieces of media do tend to take advantage of. Sweet Baby Inc., for example, now for something that is actually more gaming related, has even gone to attack cozy games now, the cozy genre, you know, like farming games, etc. Because in their mind-blowingly virus-infected mentalities, games like Stardew Valley are bad because they promote Western values. In their minds, planting crops, harvesting them, and selling them to make money and then buy more crap or to level up through progression is deeply rooted in imperialism, colonization, and capitalism. And
which is weird, because these are the games that quite literally sell the majority of their inherent politics by simply not imposing it in that place. Because even those that are the most argent would be like, nigga, this is my sacred cow. But remember, there is no sacred cow to the activist. So they'll come for me, they'll come for Helldivers, they'll come for PoE. They already take over Warframe. Nothing you can do there. They'll come for OSRS as he fucking propagates the music in the background of that particular content. And they'll come for Stardew Valley. The same way they'll come for Hytale and Stexel and a bunch of other shit, because it's just political ground to fight for. It's just territory. Which is very strange, because they're trying to own the intellectual property of a space that doesn't properly belong to them.
And so, they did this whole GDC presentation, you know, all this shit that's been on screen right now. It's like a presentation/class type of thing, where they hope to teach indie developers how to not make their games so racist and patriarchal. So the issue does exist. It's just that these examples that he went through in his video, plus the one that I pointed out earlier about Homefront and Far Cry 4, are ridiculous. However, the difference is, these guys who made the list aren't part of the games industry, and never will be, unless they, I don't know, become like indie developers. But that's about it. The people on the other side of the problem are, though. They're working in the games. They're actively influencing major titles, even in AAA studios. If we ridicule retarded descriptions in this list, we should also ridicule these retarded things in games instead of doing the shit that the Actman keeps doing in this video, which we addressed already, you know, the whole, oh, what's the problem? It's Wizards of the Cave, bro. Or body type, who cares? Like, there's a severe lack of consistency here, and understanding, really, like, I understand this list is retarded, it's funny, I get it, but the guys who made it are just morons on the internet. Meanwhile, the ones actually putting this shit into the games, shit that is utterly retarded as well, are being given excuses. They just keep at it, you know?
Nah. I do not play Warframe anymore. I haven't since Ian died. Not in my interest. Also, if her name is not Natasha, I don't give a shit. Now, making her cosplay as the character. Do 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 do.
No problem, we'll just ignore it, we'll just let it go. Keep making the games worse, no problem, fellas. Keep pushing this pervasive ideology into the video games. Who cares if there's already doctors who can't fucking answer whether a man can have a baby or not? I mean, who cares at the end of the day, right? It's Wizards of the Cave. Like, come on, man, give me a fucking break, dude. Give me a break over here, dude. This is like, one is a moron on Steam. The other is people in high positions. Not just in the games industry, but also whole-ass doctors practicing goddamn medicine. Like, that shit is like a flat earther being a cartographer or some shit. What is it that you want, sir? A map to the ice wall? Right this way. That's why this video is still relevant now. I hoped we could have touched on some of these things perhaps in our DMs, like we didn't have to make it a live chat thing if you didn't want to, honestly, but that didn't come to pass. And that's fine, you know, he doesn't owe me his time, but in recent months since then...
Pause. I think it's not a matter of him owing you personal time, Ms. Embro. It's that he owes this to every person who he is being facetious towards when he makes these arguments. He owes it to those people who he's antagonizing at a distance and mocking at a distance, whose arguments aren't being fully vested, because he lacks the ability to articulate them and never intends on telling the full truth. So somebody has to basically know the details, know the lore, regurgitate that shit back to people, and communicate it in a way where it cannot be disseminated and ignored because, huh? What? I didn't hear about this. I get all my word views from LSF. I didn't hear about this drama, so it must not be real. Because what you're dealing with when you start dealing with that is that we're going to start calling you slurs. The people who do that, we're not lecturing you. We're not explaining shit to you. We're not breaking it down. We're going to say, you have no place in this conversation. Get the fuck out, you bitch-ass tourist. That's what should happen. You're not allowed to have context. You're not allowed to give and get context if you're going to pretend like everything that is happening is new to you because you lived under a rock.
Then, this is something he still hasn't gone back to reassess or correct. Like, this is still seemingly a perfectly fine and accurate way to see the activism problem in the games industry for him. And if his political takes on Twitter are anything else to go by, this dude is getting even worse. With how much these people have exposed themselves in the games industry over the past 2 years, it's impossible to still have this view unless you're deliberately being disingenuous, or alternatively, of course, you just agree with it. Which isn't any better either, because the whole damn thing is built on sand.
Realistically, it depends on if you're retarded, you agree with it, and you're lying to people's faces, or you agree with it and you're being facetious because you think the stupidest of the funky bunch represent the majority of the people you actually have to win over in your arguments. Say what you want about an echo chamber that exists on Reddit. The left and the right do this on all content, and it's very gay, and it's very annoying when they do it, because they know that they're doing it. And it's all about a game of standing your ground and actually taking up space and denying the space from both sides. But for lack of a better example, most people who could be considered conservative, right-wing, or just apolitical, they don't do this as much as the left does, especially when it comes to media content and critical thinking skills.
Oh boy, Call of Duty's woke too? Shit. Well, yeah, multiple pride flag calling cards and emblems. Yeah, I can't have that, It's crazy that, like...
In a game that is about waging war, you want to put pride flags that belong to groups and affiliations that basically will not exist should the enemies that stand against us in war actually were to succeed and happen. Yeah, actually, yes, that is a definition of them being woke. Because they are, again, sloganeering, and they are, again, proselytizing their views based on putting the flag in the game. The flag doesn't hurt you, but the ideology of the people who are underneath the banner of the flag certainly can, and do. And actively have, and will do it again, and will argue for it again. Just because they're not bashing my head in with a bat doesn't mean that they're for me. Hell, remember when Apex first originated the Stop Asian Hate symbol, and that shit fell off immediately because niggas were the one beating on the Asians? Perfect case example. If it's convenient to you that you abandon it and you're not a true believer, sorry, that's not going to work on us.
That's all they need. Like, just this. Like a pride flag in a game. Even if it's an optional cosmetic. You can't even have that. Like, they don't even want that. No rainbows allowed. No rainbows. No.
Pause. If I am not allowed to say that I don't want to wear the flag and I'm considered some kind of evil Nazi, racist, alt-right Hitler particles bigot, then it means that you literally decided I can't have it. In which case, it's not optional. If I don't have it, I'm considered evil. You're gonna consider me evil anyways, so okay, let's be evil then! Evil twin, evil twin!
Pride flags.
I don't want to spend too much time on this note because it's a very complicated one that would span its own video, but basically suffice it to say that it depends on where you see these placed. Obviously, some settings make sense. Some games that have a metric gigaton of cosmetics for people also make sense. But obviously, other settings and some other games don't apply here. And so when it's
like a pride flag randomly showing up inside of Metroid Prime, or some other bullshit, or some kind of flag being hard-coded onto the side model of a character, that they wouldn't be able to notice it because the person thinks they're being clever by hiding it. Therefore saying, actually, you support trans people because you didn't know this flag was there.
slapped on those games, it's also obvious why it's there. Same argument as in back with the 1800 Scotland thing. It's true that, like with certain body type selectors, it's not something that will kill a game, especially when it's easily ignored, but I don't take issue with people taking note of it either because I'm just so over activists using ridiculous excuses just to shove this in, especially when those excuses often have caveats where these games are then used as positive examples of good games that quote-unquote do the right thing to then be contrasted against games that refuse to do that same thing, which then get labeled by the game's media as bad games, such as what was done with Black Myth Wukong in 2024 and what's being done right now with Lords of the Fallen 2, etc. The flag itself is already an issue for some people because of what it has latched itself onto when it comes to real-world politics. Like, years ago, it wasn't even the current flag. It was just the rainbow flag. And that only meant support for gay and bisexual people. Like, that's it. Like, yeah, sure, let's go ahead and live and let live, etc. You know, progress was actually being made here in the West, where this sort of thing was much more normalized. Then it changed. Now it's obviously not just about letting gay and bi people live their lives. Now it's about all manner of other shit, some of which is extremely controversial, such as self-ID laws, female spaces, female sports, and the big one, child transitions. There's a lot of people out there who aren't even homophobic.
Fortunately, we live in the future where we've already won the first detransitioner case. And just like that, like an etch-a-sketch. However, Avalon says, anyone who tries to convince you that game theory is the correct method of resolving the iterative prisoner's dilemma is trying to argue to you that they should be allowed to harm you without bounds. Yes, true.
It's just that the flag doesn't just simply represent that kind of thing anymore. It's, like I said, it's just so much more. It has become very divisive, so putting it in a game now isn't the same as putting it in a game 10 years ago. I feel like that's also relevant and should be taken into account. But yeah, mainly for me, it's the implication that grows out of it, where then other games are forced to pander to the same thing too, and if they don't, like if they want the integrity of their game setting to remain airtight, because, you know, for example, in the case of Black Myth Wukong, there is no conceivable way where you can inject this kind of ideological, modernized bullshit into it because it's an ancient mythological China setting, and please do not forget Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, we discussed this very recently. That's a game that got hounded by games media for not having this fake diversity in a medieval European setting where it just doesn't make a lick of sense. Then they'll get hounded by games media like IGN and, you know, Polygon, Kotaku, .esports, etc. and all that, and demonized for it just for not forcing it into their games. I think that shit is utterly ridiculous. People just expect this to be the norm now, and if you fall out of the norm, then they look at you sideways. And nobody ever talks about this. Everyone always wants to sit and use the excuse of, oh, just let developers do what they want to do. Freedom of expression and freedom of creativity, or rather creative freedom. They only use that excuse when it comes to including these ideologies. But nobody from their side working in these game news outlets and all that ever uses the same excuse to defend the studio's right to choose not to put it into their games.
Actually, they do use the same argument, and it's retarded when they do. Because it's always based on feels and vibes.
Look at how specific this gets, though. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. A minigame on Ardolis involves singing a song about women in respectable positions of power. Who gives a shit?
They do, brother. They do. They give so much of a shit that they had to take a goddamn game from Insomniac, a whole-ass, cartoony Ratchet & Clank game, big-budget, PS5 debut game that was then delayed a bit, and they had to put that blatant political nonsense into it to fill their activism quotas. Instead of telling me who gives a shit, instead of dismissing this the way that you're dismissing every single inconvenient thing on this list and beyond, tell me why it has to be there. Tell me why it belongs in that goddamn game. Give me one good reason why I should ignore these little nuggets of activism being pushed into so many different video games and other types of media. Give me a reason why I shouldn't care about these little percentages that they are running whole entire studies on in order to then use on presentations like this one. I wouldn't give a shit if there was any other way around it, but while this is going on, I'm sorry, but I do. Because they do. It's the most important thing for them. It's their sole mission. It's what they wake up in the morning for. It's what pays their checks at the end of the month. And the more you ignore, justify, or protect, the more of it there will be. Because it's a job, dude. You know what I mean? Like, if your job is to find problematic content, as they say, in video games to then fix with your progressive bullshit, what happens when you run out of problems? Well, you think they get a medal and early retirement? Hell no. They get laid off because their job becomes redundant. It's like it's over. You're done. You finished. You beat all the... You did it. You made the games industry progressive. Congratulations. So these people's jobs are literally never done. If they can't find a problem, they'll create one. That's why things have gotten progressively worse as years have gone by. Because so have they, as well as their demands and their control over content. Another problem I have with the Actman and his narrative. Like, look at this.
They already reviewed Veilguard. It's not even out. They don't even need to play the game.
Anyone that hasn't been inhaling insurmountable amounts of copium, like anyone that wasn't inhaling the national stock of copium in the United States, could have seen the problem in Veilguard weeks before release. Again, I'm not going to kick this video with Veilguard's history, you know, before and after launch. It's all very well documented in my channel already if anyone is interested, but the point is that Veilguard wasn't a case of if it's going to be bad, it was a case of how bad is it going to be. Because before launch, it was already obvious that this was going to be a shit festival to anyone who knew at least the bare minimum of what had been going on in the games industry in terms of activism, basically. And this is a prime example of how being dismissive of this stuff to the point of generalizing it is not only wrong of him to do, it's downright embarrassing. Like, here he is, laughing this off as if it was ridiculous that the page was already not recommending Veilguard before playing it, when it ended up being one of the biggest jokes of modern gaming. And then it's like, oh, but Daz, that's just lucky that it ended up that way. No, it's not. It was goddamn obvious. Remember that diary quote I read earlier in this video, like fucking an hour ago or something, because this video is massive? That quote was already out and about in public before launch. I read it in one of my first videos covering Veilguard's lies behind this false notion of inclusion that they were peddling online. Again, all you had to do to see Veilguard for what it was, or at least to have enough respectable suspicion for it, is have common sense and not be so biased that you're blinding yourself out for political activists in the industry, pretending like your eyes aren't actually seeing what's there, and that none of this ever matters. Who cares about all this?
it's so weird to keep like a database of all this. Like imagine if they did this for like racism and sex.
It's no more weird to make a database for all this content than it is to call out the content and piecemeal which ones fall within your specific desire and which ones don't fall into your specific desire. That's what it would feel like if, you know, you were just a manipulative fuck. But how would you know? You're just some dumb white guy.
Wouldn't that just be insane to be like, oh, this game is racist, a black guy gets killed in it? I feel like that would be the exact same shit.
They do, you idiot. That's the fucking point. These changes come to these games, shows, and movies because these idiots view these things as issues or as problematic things either in our games or our society. What the hell is even this point that you're trying to make here? Oh my god, who am I even talking to at this point? Like, how can you even say this shit unironically without realizing how stupid it just sounded? The shit I showed earlier about Lord of the Rings, the whole thing with Sweet Baby Inc. and their lists of how these cozy games are racist or patriarchal, the Xbox list, caked with those little eggshells all over the damn place of things that they deem problematic or to be too harmful to be included in video games. All of those things, except specifically the SBI thing about cozy games, are things that we already knew about and talked about on this channel and online in general by the time that we made that original video. Like, my dude, holy shit, man. Why do you think these quotas exist? Why do you think these changes in character designs and dialogues exist? Why do you think this hype—
His honest answer is because they just invented it. The logic behind the follow-through is not going to make sense when you try to have him map ontological inertia onto that character in the form of the stuff that he wants to antagonize. It's going to be the case that he's just going to attack low-hanging fruit so that he can ignore the more solid arguments.
fixation in adding LGBT stuff into every goddamn game exists. This is already there. It's always been there. There was a whole previous Gamergate about this shit specifically. And the only reason why you won't find a stupid-ass list like this from the other side is because they don't need it, brother. They're the ones who have any sway at all in entertainment. They're the ones who are in the studios calling these shots. And even outside of that, if you think about it, other platforms already accommodate them. For example, if you want games that have this kind of ideological content, you can literally go on PlayStation Store or Steam and search for games via categories or tags that are purposefully built for them. On PlayStation, there's diversity categories and LGBT categories packed with games that are tagged as such for people to browse and buy. And of course, Steam also has their own tags that are for this kind of thing, like the LGBT tag or the female protagonist tag, for example. Like, I can't believe you'd be able to say this shit out loud in a video and then edit the video afterwards and hear it again without a light bulb going off in your head like, oh, wait a minute, nope, okay, that was stupid, let me cut it out of the video. Holy shit, dude.
Divinity Original Sin 2? How? Homosexual romance options. Okay. Like, that's a bad thing, you know what I mean? That's a bad thing to these people. Not that it's...
It's not that it's bad, it's that it's something different, and the way that you express it, it must include the sex despite the fact that players don't want it. And if they reject it wholesale, you want them to have their files deleted, which is an abdication of all the time they spent playing the game, let alone getting into it. So, sorry. Gay Bear Simulator had to win itself over by actually being a repeatable, playable experience. Now, Bear Simulator 2 Electric Boogaloo has to be capable of telling the difference between someone actively wasting your time and someone clearly not wasting it. They're just a new parent. But who's ever backtracked on ideas before, right? We always say things we mean the first time and never change our minds afterwards.
Forced, as in it forces the player to be gay, but that it's an option in the game. Homosexual relationships are written and included for people who care, or for people who want to explore all pieces of content, all different types of relationships. It's like these people are discouraging that. And sounds like these are the people trying to shove political ideology into our video games instead of trying to keep it, you know, relegated to the artists themselves.
Are you retarded? So I know you're not retarded, but what are you, Down syndrome?
Again, dude. Again, oh my god, man. Like, you're so close. You're so close, but then you just run into a fucking post. Like, yes, you have an RPG, let people romance whoever they want to romance in an RPG. Get some male options, get some female options, get some weird options in there too, like, I don't fucking know, a lizard lady with big titties, who cares? But then he goes, and again, dismisses every actual palpable example of what's truly happening in the industry, and lays the claim that, oh, the true political activists shoving their ideology into gaming are the people making stupid-ass Steam lists like this, or complaining about woke stuff online, rather than the actual political activists who are in the studios, or in the consultant companies that the studios hire to come in and shove their activism into the games themselves. Like, great assessment, Act-Man. Really fucking bright. I mean, very, very, totally not retarded, disingenuous, brain-dead, take it all, good sir. Take this trophy in lieu of payment for the shit that you just smeared all over your living room wall. Bro will look at a picture of GDC and all the shit that's going on there with all those game developers hanging out, and he'll be like, oh, no problem here. Wait, fuck me. Oh, fuck me, dude. It's hopeless.
it's not fully hopeless. It's just you can't have a serious conversation with people who are going to act like it is impossible to understand. Yeah, you gotta understand, they don't want to admit it. So make them admit it. If they don't admit it, they're full of shit. Simple as. Done.
And that's about it for his video, fellas. I feel like that alone perfectly encapsulates the general problem here. While there are things to criticize on that list that come across as completely stupid, and also, I showed 0 examples of this, but another string of things the X-Men shows is how stupidly obvious some of the ones on the list are. Like, they'll go and search, themselves. They'll search gay dating games, and then they'll put them on the list as if they needed curation. Like, it's a gay dating game. What do you expect's going to be in it? A tutorial for how to fucking do your taxes or something? But at the end of the day, he completely dismisses and misinterprets the actual problem itself, ending up doing far more damage towards the discourse surrounding the matter than anything else. Because if we don't argue about these things while at least having our feet perfectly set on solid ground, then we're never going to get anywhere. Like, you can't have a discussion about this stuff if one party is living in a delusion, denying the reality that is right in front of them. Like, that's the lowest of requirements for having a discussion about this kind of thing. Like, that's how bad the disconnect is here. If you can't establish a basis of reality, you can't even have a rational discussion about any of this. Like, for instance, a point I left out in my ramblings here is, I don't even care about when this stuff is done in indie games. It doesn't matter. It's about freedom, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a game developer and you want to make video games that have this kind of content in them, you have the right to do so. What I care about is when Sweet Baby Inc. tries to influence indie developers into pretending like games such as Stardew Valley are problematic, and so any games that are made like that are problematic too.
Pause. I think that it's more important to say, I do not care what a individual designer does in the indie scene with their game. I care if somebody's trying to form a clique in the game industry scene against those people, based on the bias of demonizing people who set out to make fun games versus people who set out to politically proselytize in their content. I mean, shit. For content, when we get done with some of the things that was being done for and by the requests made by Exocrusher, when we circle back around, we might as well play Merchants of Rosewall again, to all the way to completion. Because that game, despite being a cozy game, despite being effectively a fucking, being a visual novel, at the end of the day is a great economic game sim. A great economic artisan game sim. Like, right up there with Alchemy Meister. Period. The same way you could say you have a good JRPG in the form of the Rants games. I care more about the attempt to create a cabal than I do about people doing individualistically fun stuff in their content.
Pressuring Valve to ban accounts, giving their games bad scores, and exposing whatever DEI type of narratives they may have in there. As I talked about recently in another video, like, if you want to do that kind of content, you're free to do that kind of content, and everyone else is free to judge it, review it, criticize it. And of course, the other thing I don't stand is shit like this being forced into AAA games with major budgets. That's usually what makes them crash and burn. Often handling known and beloved IPs like Dragon Age just to turn them into a total shit show that then you aren't allowed to criticize openly without IGN, Kotaku, Polygon, The Gamer, etc. declaring you a bigot for it. And the funny thing is, this is sometimes things that I have to address with other people, but that it doesn't even come up in this video of the Ackmans because he's so brain broken or uninformed when it comes to this topic that it doesn't even make the argument for it.
Let's go with uninformed.
Reality where one admits that yes, political activism does exist in the industry and it is rampant, but it should be their right to make the content that they want, for example, which would be the point where you start going off in another direction of the conversation. Like, is it wise to do that? We're talking about big budgets. Is it normal to put that at stake? What about the skewed demographic data that they have that isn't fucking real?
I mean, realistically, the data is the data. If they have skewed numbers, that data didn't come from Hirana. Didn't come from Sakana. If it came in-house, they got a problem. Because it means somebody's lying to them. And yeah, that's a part of the question. But the Sakana numbers? Shit.
This kind of shit. But the Eggman isn't even there. He's stuck at the stage of, oh, it doesn't matter, who even cares about all this? And something I do wonder is, since the video is a bit older, I wonder, has he changed his mind since then? And if so, why hasn't that come across?
No! 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 He hasn't. No. He's entrenched it.
In his content, in his commentary, like for example, he went off about Assassin's Creed Shadows at the time, alongside some other idiot, the Mighty Keef or whatever, and Synth Potato. That to me shows me that, no, he hasn't changed his mind. And then there's also the event that triggered us starting to swap DMs at first, which was this post right here that I made. I retweeted him because this news came out about Halo Dev says no one is happy about the quality of the next game and there's tension at the studio. And, he made a meme, losing his fucking mind and going, man. And I found this interesting because none of this news about Halo surprised me at all. It doesn't surprise any of us who keep up with the news of what's going on in the industry, what's going on in these studios and who actually give considerable weight to political activism in the industry. It's not a case as bad as Veilguard's, where you can tell that the whole thing was going to be a shit show, but it's similar. You know what I mean? Like, you follow the breadcrumbs, what are you gonna find? Fucking Boogie 2988 or whatever, you know? He ate all the fucking bread. I don't know. What you're definitely not going to find is bread. What the fuck am I even talking about?
Look, here's the thing. Fine. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
So what I wrote was, the cycle of Act Man. People say Game X is cooked because Studio Y is caked with activists and or working with Publisher Z's in-house restrictions based in borderline retarded political correctness and hypersensitivity, often perceived as woke, which Xbox has, like that list that I showed you guys. Said people sometimes, and sometimes not, refer to other consequences of the decision, such as essentially wasting money on garbage that is antithetical to the franchise. He laughs at them online and mocks them for connecting those dots. Sometimes even throws a video in there too, like this one, like fucking this one that he made here. Games come out and end up sucking, or studios end up shutting down before the game even sees the light of day. Actman gets sad and shares memes online about how dog shit the publisher is. Rinse and repeat. That's what got him mad enough to message me in the first place. And, you know, it's very normal for people to change their minds as time goes by, right? I mean, you live and you learn, especially as more information comes out, and there's always more information coming out. Gothic Therapy is a fantastic channel that thoroughly investigates the happenings at Sweet Baby Inc., for example. Madam Savvy is another fantastic investigative channel. A lot of the shit that I cover on my channel are thanks to them, because they are basically over there sleuthing and finding information. And so much like myself, the X-Man could also have changed his mind over time, but this and other interactions throughout the year are why I don't believe he has. And so, here's this.
Realistically, I don't think he's ever going to truly change his opinion, because that implies that he's actually willing to talk about his problems, not just antagonize people for his problems. Want to value head? Learn to value the people. You don't want to value head? Pop them like balloons. Waiting for a thing, waiting for a thing, waiting for a thing, waiting for a thing. Pause. Unpause.
This video response. A bit late as usual responses go, but still fresh off the presses apparently. People criticizing Xbox Game Studios for being fucking littered with political activism? That's bad. You can't do that, guys, because that means you're bringing the politics into it. Actual political activists in these fucking studios, companies, consultants, game developer conference, the Gamescom guy as well, who said that we need more politics in games. You know, all these people, all these agendas that are actually bringing the politics in games, that's fine. That's fine. That doesn't matter. That's not actually politics. That's over there. It's the chuds that are the bad ones. All of this shit that's actually making the Halo game bad, that's fine. No, that's okay, fellas. You don't understand. It's a delicate balance. Give me a break, dude. Give me a break and a shot of something strong so I can handle the tired waves, because...
Damn, boy, he's thick, boy!
And with that said, that's the end of this ridiculously long video. This is probably way past the hour. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's 1 hour and 10 in the recording, plus I'm gonna have to put the clips in, so yeah. But it was worth it in the end to make sure that I got at least as many things across as possible, at least the most pertinent ones from his video, with as much context as I could give, evidence as well, and good faith, in, you know, despite a few memes here and there. I mean, you know what it is. If you made it this far, fellas, you're in the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe if you're new, you know, let's up those numbers, let me know your thoughts down below, you know, all that YouTube bullshit, and have yourselves a terrific rest of your weekends. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.
It looks like he's just ends it right there. And that leads into the follow-up that comes earlier in the timeline. That's the wrong window, that's the wrong window, that's the wrong window, that's the wrong window, that's the right window. Which is Grifters are ruining gaming, which is from 2 months back as a response from a grifter. However, we're at 10:44. Itchy. And we can potentially hold this off at a later date. In the case if there's something much stronger that people would like me to look into, which I'm looking right now inside my polls in the server. And I'm seeing some contenders, but I'm also feeling the pull of my bed, which is getting on my nerves. Because I can feel myself drifting, and short of asking for coffee that I don't have, if I have to take a nap, a nigga gotta take a nap. That nigga gotta take a nappy poo. I don't know what to tell you. I hit the age of 30. I hit the age of 31, going on 32, and all of a sudden I gotta take midday fucking naps because my job is stressful and hard. Not of content creation, but of doing my homekeeping. What it is? I actually do have a tab for this. This, of course, this is assuming that Okinawan Stan is a Shira Drake. If you're not a Shira Drake, then to inform you, yes, I actually do have a tab. The community has a place called the Printing Press Express. They are able to post and present content and ideas and topics that I may have not seen or that I may not be fully up on top of and aware of, so that they may present content that then gets played back on camera, as well as things that I investigate myself that I also post in the same place in a forum post inside my Discord. That's how we had the content about Lupita Nyong'o and the Birdman, suggested by my audience member, and I extrapolated and made it into full material for the day. Alas, the time is currently 10:46, and I marked down the State of Play stream for noon. However, should noon come and pass, what will happen is that if I end up oversleeping to the point where I want the Discord gaming night for today to begin, like around 4 p.m., I'll just push it to later on Sunday, excuse me. Because, Lord, I did the research onto that fucking topic that was presented to me about the Atlantean cultist, the Atlantean cultish person. Man, it's easier to show you than it is to tell you. So pulling it from here, I read to you, and I quote, "The Zamanist consortium on a black nationalist that is around my city-state, with a political movement that's based out of Atlanta as a self-described fascist political ideology, antagonizing the idea of black crime, black anime, black leftists, the intoxication of the black left, and a bunch of other shit that's like the antithesis to Jake Monroe, the unironic agreeer of goth punk right now, the one that wears the suit and wears the makeup. I did so much research into that, and my eyes started to cross. So, Carl gonna take a nappy poo, and I'll be back later on today. If I end up not coming and being able to start at noon, I'm gonna put the State of Play for another day. And we're going to start with the Discord Gaming Night. Surprised. I see a lot more people watching on Kick than I normally do. Yay me. Regardless. Comments, questions, concerns, drop them in my Dropbox. DM me. Tell me about them. Etc. stuff. Hello, Pipcat. Tell me about them. Join the Discord. It is most likely where you're able to find me and anywhere else with my material and content and be able to get my attention faster than anywhere else. And I will see you all when I come back. I'm over here to get you paid the money dollars for existing in your chat room. Yes, indeed. And boy, do I know I appreciate it. I'd like to start getting paid on Kick. Same way I'm getting paid on the other platforms. As in all 2 of them. I obviously make more from YouTube. But I need, and I would like to see a return of benefit on Kick. Certainly. Certainly. I need to look into that again to see exactly what I require in order for that to qualify. So, the more the merrier. Most definitely. But I will see you all around, if I'm not back by then, probably 3. Or whenever I get back up. And now I turn into a pumpkin. Goodbye.